I'd like to call our work session to order. This is the Centerville Community School District. Our mission is that all students will learn well, become lifelong learners, and contribute positively to society. It is August 5th, 2022 at 12 p.m. in Centerville admin offices. Hereby call the work session to order with a roll call, please.
Moore is absent. Mike Thomas.
Here.
Bob Thomas is absent. Shondell.
Here.
Berger.
Here.
Carter.
Here.
Liskus.
Here. So our agenda just has one item on it. We just need a motion to, a second to approve the agenda, please.
So moved. Second.
Motion second to approve the agenda. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion, the motion is passed. The agenda is approved. We are now into our work session. So for the Centerville High School edition, discussion with FRK Architects and by State. And again, like I said, as we're opening, thank you all for the work that you've been putting in. Obviously, everybody in this room wants to see this work. We just have to see if we can make it work. And thank you for joining on Zoom. I guess I shouldn't leave you out. So appreciate Ferris Engineering being here via Zoom. So with that, I think, are there any opening comments you want to make? All right, we'll just get into, tell us what you can do.
Yep, I'm gonna pull up the drawings here, and I also have a worksheet as well for you guys too. Do you have the HDMI cord? Hook into that. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna hand this out. We will go line item by line item. And each page is divided into a sector of the building. By sector, I mean architectural, civil, plumbing, mechanical, electrical, food service. Yep. Got one ready? You guys want one back here?
Thank you. Okay, so I think
Okay, so I did also mark up the drawings as well, and I do have drawings with me too if we need to pull them out for a little bit more detailed view. But what I guess today, I would suggest running,
So I probably
Yeah.
made an error in not stating something.
yeah,
Right here. So since this is a work session, we're going to discuss the items. We cannot take any action in this meeting. What we're going to look at doing is we'll have to take action either on the 8th at our meeting or a special meeting on the 15th. So this is just open discussion to talk about, do we want to do these things, do we not want to do these things? But we will not make any decisions today. We just can't because it's a work session. So I thought I better clarify that. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
now what we, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, what we might be able to do today is say, okay, we would possibly accept that one.
Yep.
We maybe want to do that one, or
Yep.
we want to, we don't want to, we know we don't want to do that one at all. And so that
Right.
kind of starts to get us, as you can see,
Yep.
as I've outlined in this graph, and each graph
Yep.
for each sector is the same, where we have the amount of the we can kind of start to see where all of our value engineering items are at now.
Okay.
Where we're heading as
First
far
of all,
as
that
the
total
DEI.
number was looking pretty good, so thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, we want to see this project move
Absolutely.
forward too, so we're here to assist you in any way possible to make sure that happens. I just want to make sure I don't disconnect here, since it looks like I don't have a great connection. There we go. Okay, so let's go item on, A1. that, there's two doors that we have.
There you go.
Okay, so the overhead cooling door, we have two of them in the project. They are located between the gym and the commons. So that total amount is about just under $29,000 for that cost of that. Adding that opening, you do not need that opening for egress. That opening simply is just a nice connection between your commons and your gym.
I'm wondering if it's a heat thing, maybe it's pulling down on it too much, is there that? Yeah. See if we get there.
I have a different connection, let's see if that one works a little bit better. Maybe. Sorry, guys.
Is it just a type C adapter?
Yeah, yep.
You keep going, I'll see if I have a different
Okay.
one downstairs.
Got a lot of technology.
I know.
That
So,
works.
I know you guys have seen that option though, where we have the two, there we go, I think I got it back up and running. Okay, there we go. Back up here. Okay, so those are the two overhead doors, and that would be a just under a $29,000 deduct.
So would the framing still remain, so that we could put the doors in later?
So right now, it's a precast panel, so an option, and I don't know if this was we would have to talk with Bi-State on this, is if you included a panel that could be removed at some point to do that. I've seen that done in the past, so you could do that, it is a precast panel there, so.
Wait a minute, precast panel.
Yeah, the doors sit within a precast panel. So you could just take that, have a knockout panel in the precast, and then eventually install those overhead doors if you wanted to.
So it would be a solid wall between the two.
Correct, yes.
And I guess there still is a double door there at the bottom and a double door
Yes.
at the top?
Yep, correct. So egress is not an issue. You still obviously direct access off of the commons into that gym area. It just wouldn't be as open. You know, you wouldn't have that visual connection if you ever wanted to have that kind of act as one space, right?
Is there a sound difference, would you say, between the two?
I would say you're gonna have better sound barrier if you don't have the doors, for sure. But, you know, there'll be some, I mean, it's not gonna be terrible, but yes, you'll hear some noise between those two with the coiling doors, yes. Yep. So if you have something going on in your gym and something going on in your commons, they could potentially hear each other at the same time.
And to put a doorway in later, you're saying we would have to do what?
We would have to design the panel so that it's basically the panel's I call it a knockout panel, where you would just have to sever at that joint and remove the panel, and it would then be ready for an overhead coiling door. We'd have to work with Bi-State to see how that would affect maybe that
There would
that
be some
estimate.
cost,
Yeah.
to include a knockout, there would be
Correct.
some cost, what that cost would be,
right.
I don't know, otherwise, you'd have to come in, completely saw cut the opening
Right.
out.
Support
And then-
the panels above,
Right.
re-support the panels above, because those are entire panels.
Okay, and how would the floor be finished then when we cut those panels out?
You would have to add the transition at the floor if you cut the panels out, yep. And that gym floor is not a wood floor, so.
Right.
But you could easily add like a aluminum transition piece there that could fill in that between the two.
Okay.
because that panel continues down
Yep,
36, 42 inches below your floor.
correct.
Yeah, that's
So-
what I
Yep.
figured.
Yep,
And then you said that then we'd also have to reconfigure to carry the load across there, is that correct?
Yes, if we do not include a knockout panel and you wanna add it in later, yes, you would, because that's actually, how we designed that is for it to be a full panel that we just didn't, we already had suspended that panel. So the original design intended to have that upper panel suspended,
Right.
so that you could have that opening there, so.
So if we take this out, to add it back later is gonna cost more than 28,000.
Yes,
Okay. So it's basically, I think that comes down to either we do it or we don't do it. Because I don't know why we would come back and spend twice that later to put it back in. I think that's just something we need to be cognizant of.
Okay,
so that's item one. And let me know if you want me to stop at any time, if you wanna continue the discussion. Okay, so item two, eliminate the windows into the wrestling room area. So we had added a few windows, observation windows into that wrestling room, there. They have to cut out that existing precast and then put in those wrestling room windows. You can see that's about $1,000 credit. There really just isn't much there. They already have the demo people on site for other demolition. The windows are not very, they're not terribly expensive windows, they're aluminum framed window, hollow metal, excuse me, hollow metal windows, bar lights is what we would call them, and then there's some, we have a little bit of sheet rock around that opening, so you're not seeing a ton of credit for that specific item there.
and that's in the hallway, is there?
Yes, correct, yep, I can zoom out for you too. Here's our commons here, gym, we have the weight room located here, and then we have the locker room there, and there's your existing wrestling room now,
So
yes.
the purpose of the windows is just to see in?
It was
see
to
out?
have like an observation into the wrestling room area, so, and that actually originally is in the original design of the wrestling room there, as you see, we're taking those out, because obviously our grade changes at that point, so. So that is about $1,000 credit, a little under that. Next item, eliminating the clear story, so the tall windows in the weight room. So we had some windows that we had designed for the weight room area, and they were higher, so allowing natural light in to the space.
For those of us who didn't go to advanced English,
I'm gonna pull up an elevation for you.
the
so you can see.
solicitor is what?
Clear story.
Clear story.
It's you're
Yeah,
taking your
I'll show
roof
you.
line and then any windows above your roof line,
Okay.
it
Yep.
would be, that would be the easiest description I can make
Got
of a clear
Tall,
story.
basically tall windows that you can't directly see out of when you're standing there.
But it would be,
Yes, correct.
it would be the only light into that weight room, natural light.
Yes, it would be, yep, so you would be eliminating that, and that's a credit of about 29,000,
Okay.
okay? And that's that kind of window right there that you're seeing.
29?
9,000.
9,000.
Oh, sorry, 9,000, sorry, I went on to the next one, yes, 9,000, I'm sorry. 9,000.
Does that weight room have any outside, windows? Is
No,
on an outside wall?
that would be it.
That's the only way.
That would be the only window that we currently have in there, yep. Next item on the list, bleachers at the gym. So we had bleacher space here, small set of bleachers, about 29,000, right? Make sure I stand on the right line
You're on the
item
right
there.
line. You're completely set.
So that would be pulling those out. You can always add those later. That's actually not that difficult to add later. You could even add portable bleachers if you wanted to, if you, depending on how you end up using that gym space, you could easily add those in later without causing much of a trouble in there. So that's the bleachers, the gym curtain. So we had sorry. Did you find another one?
I did not.
Okay.
I texted Nicola though, so she gets back to me. I go look for that.
It says it's connected, so I don't know what's happening here. There we go. In the gym, we have a curtain down the center. You probably have seen it. I think you probably have one at Lakeview. I think there's one at Howard as well. Basically, it cuts the gym in half so you can kind of hold two different gym classes or activities in the gym. That curtain, to remove that gym curtain, is about $7,700 to remove that. And that was power and everything like that too. Sound panels around the gym, I'm gonna go to a kind of an elevation of if you were to be standing in the gym and you're looking at one surface, and then I'm gonna look at kind of all four surfaces for you. Those sound panels would help with some acoustics. Now, depending on the ultimate use of the gym and how often you use it, and if you use it for a lot of activities, so for example, there's kind of, if I'm looking actually at the west elevation of the gym, looking towards the commons, these panels right up here, those are the Tectum panels, and those are to help with sound. And we have those all around the whole gym space. Now, you do already have an acoustic deck. So there is an acoustic deck, so you have some acoustic properties already within that space to help out with noise. What we have seen done in the past, some districts decide not to put them up and just see how that space is used, how they end up needing that space, and then that one is an easy install after the fact.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what is the install, not to question your labor on, but what does it take to install panels later?
The labor will be the same as putting them up when it's new.
But I mean-
You're gonna go in with a scissor lift, go up, you're more than likely going to cleat the wall with a 2x4 or create a framework out of a 2x4, and then you're gonna screw the panels into it.
Tack-on that into the.
Yep.
Exactly,
Yep.
or some of them you can buy, you're strictly just tack on straight into your,
Okay,
so it's not a labor intensive, it's not
okay,
easily can be done.
Probably more so materials than labor on that.
Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
okay.
It would seem that, the way the layout is, all that noise, if we did put those up there, that noise would be projected into, I guess we would call it where we're going to be eating lunch, and then right down the hallway to the classrooms, and right around the corner to all of our offices.
But you do have the acoustic deck, which is gonna help a lot of that.
Mhm.
It's an insulated perforated deck, and so it allows the sound into that deck and deadens it. It's gonna take care of part of it.
Yep.
If
And
you
in the
choose-
commons, we have that too.
And then, yeah, the Commons has acoustic deck as well. If you eliminate those coiling doors, that's gonna,
That would
if
help.
they're not open, they're not open or they're not there, that's gonna be another sound block as
Are
well.
those coiling doors not to go back on you, sorry, but those would be metal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, it's right under a basketball hoop, and basketballs are gonna hit that all day,
Yeah,
potentially? Oh, okay,
Well, the basketball hoop is between the doors.
They
fair
are,
enough.
yeah.
Well, okay, we'll get really good so that we don't hit the doors.
I'm hitting the doors.
We'll get
If I'm
really
shooting
good.
very many, I'm hitting the doors.
I will not be shooting baskets in there on that side.
Is that what's cut?
How about old
Or
school
people
dodgeball
can't see
hitting
it
it?
on the.
Well, no, I was just saying, if you join the Zoom.
That's
share
just
that
a,
way.
and maybe
Make
I'm
sure you
missing
shop
something,
your
so that's a
sound.
concern I might have with noise
And then
that
you won't
projects
have
out.
Okay.
Yeah, so acoustically, taking the overhead roll-up doors out is a plus.
For what Mr. Thomas is discussing, the sound leaving the gym.
Yes,
So that's a plus.
yes.
To take these acoustic panels out is a negative,
If you were to, yeah,
if we were to take them out.
Yeah.
How does that wash as far as if we have the acoustic panels in and put the roll-up door? Which one of those two scenarios would be better in sound?
I'm not a sound engineer.
Got it.
I wouldn't be,
I'm not either, so I can't speak to that, but I would say that if you don't anticipate having like giant crowds here in the gym, and I don't think you'll have as much concern without having those acoustic panels.
As long as we take the roll-up door out.
I think if you, yes, yeah. Or we could even look at, do we just do half the amount of Tectum panels? I mean, that's an option too. I mean, we could still keep some in there, instead of having 2 per panel, you can see it kind of have them butting up here, 2 per panel, we would just do 1, right? And that might help a little bit, but also, again, I would say that that is something that you could definitely add later depending on how you end up using it.
To me, this seems like a go without them and see if we need them later, because if it's just Capcom in there, that is not a lot of
Now,
difficulties.
if you make the wall a solid wall,
Mhm.
as it were, And then if we do use that room for other activities, then you more than likely are gonna want panels back in there, because the activity in the room is gonna be noisy.
Echoey, yeah.
It's gonna echo, it's gonna be real echoey, I would guess. Just doing a kind of a real quick analysis, that would be my opinion. You know, I taught sound and acoustics for a while, so.
I wonder what benefit we would get, because we have some banners that used to be hung at Lakeview, fabric banners for high school sport achievements. I wonder if we couldn't have some of those hung there to help absorb some sound.
Anything like that.
Anything soft will definitely help you. It's not gonna give you as much value, obviously as much help as like a specially
real
designed
panel,
acoustic panel,
yeah.
yeah. And these are just tectum panels, which means they're kind of a wood fibrous cementous panel that holds a gas in it to absorb the sound and take it
It
in.
looks like ramen noodles.
Yeah,
If
that's
you've
a
ever
good way to
seen
put
ramen
it.
noodles,
Yeah.
that's what this panel's gonna look like.
They used to use it a lot in roofs actually too, so, but in older
Okay.
roofs. So that's a credit, that would be a credit of, 21,000, a little over that, obviously, you can see that in there. We did throw it out there to reduce the gym size by 10 feet, just to see if reducing some square footage would have help. You can see there's really minimal cost on an advantage to that, because they're already gonna be there setting the panels. 10 feet on that size gym is not really, it's $10,000, so.
If you told me it's 100,000, I'd be excited for 10,000. I don't know.
10 feet's 10 feet.
I appreciate the idea, but
Yeah, we're trying to see if we just made it a little bit smaller of a gym, but you're not gonna see a ton of value there.
yeah,
That'll affect your acoustics too, reducing that space for it to echo around in there probably.
Yes,
You
yeah,
just
I mean, you're making a smaller space for sure.
puts it in a smaller bottle.
Yep.
okay.
So the next one is remove display cases. So we had a few display cases located in this corridor. Right here. And right here.
I have an idea. Why don't we have our shop class build that as a project?
So that is a credit of just under 4,000.
I know the shop class. It might not be what you want. We can talk about that later, but, yeah.
But either way, it's something to be done.
Senior project after they've been in it for 4 years.
Maybe.
You must have been in the program for 4 years before completing. The elevation of that, just so you guys can kind of see what it looks like, we had brick around there, and then we had a spot for vending and a spot for,
The display case just basically fastened to the wall. It wasn't built in, right?
it is built
It's
in.
built in.
It is built in.
Yeah, so that would be removing all that.
Oh.
Okay, that's an issue.
Yeah, because if we take that out and we have our shop class do it, then that recess is not there. And if you put the recess in there, we're talking minimal savings.
I mean, what they could do, that whole section was gonna be taken out, so you could put you could put something in there later. So basically, if I go back up to the floor plan. You could eliminate this area here and this area here.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and so those
So
are,
it
It's
was
just
built
an entire
there.
bump out.
It's,
in
Yes.
that
it's a
corridor.
bump out, not a
Right.
true recess.
So if we just shot the wall straight through and eliminated
Yes.
everything,
right,
that would be a much better option.
What were you gonna put in it, Brad, do you know? I had no idea.
I mean, I don't know if they were thinking like wrestling trophies or any type of even, yeah.
Have a number of.
All the stuff that's at the old school.
Right, like older, maybe some
Trophies and all
historic
that stuff
trophies,
is down there.
helmets, those kind of things.
But since it was a bump out, there would be space that we'd still have a wide enough hall to
Yeah.
put a display, like body standing display
Yes,
case
you
down the
could
road.
buy a manufactured
Yeah,
case.
we could buy freestanding.
Yes. Yes, you could,
Okay,
I think we can challenge
There's,
the.
there's a pretty capable cabinet shop not far from here
right.
that could really do something there.
so this price, says remove the display cases.
Yep,
is that leaving the bump out there that?
I will have to verify that. I didn't put that one together myself. I'll have to do some looking.
We'll
And I'll
verify
get- I'll
that.
get back to you on
Yeah,
that one.
I mean, it would make it simpler construction wise not to have.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
at all.
Yep.
Yeah. We still need the hookups for vending and still need the water. We'll still need the drinking fountain, so that has to stay.
Yeah, that still has to
Yep,
stay.
Yep. Okay, so going down the list here, so we had a wall graphic at a bulkhead in the commons area. There was so if we go to the commons area here, and I'll show you an elevation as well, we have a vertical wall that comes down about 10 feet from the higher roof in this commons area right here that runs this way, north-south, and it's coming in here. That face, we had planned to have a wall graphic, so like a vinyl wall graphic on there. And that would be, to remove that would be a credit of, about $5,000 to not include that in there.
And what was the graphic gonna look like?
We hadn't determined that, we would design it and everything, but we didn't have a final design on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you know how big it was?
Yes, I do, I'll show you that, yep.
It was
It was big, because it's that whole entire wall. If you're in the standing in the comments and you look west, it's basically
Okay.
it's from here to here, so.
It was huge.
Yes, yep. It's basically that whole wall between the, admin and the kitchen, if that kind of. So yes, a very large wall graphic. It is something that you guys could do later. That is, the drywall is still there, it still has to be finished. They would have to paint it.
Yep.
So, that's about it. And then you guys could do the wall
We have to
graphic.
prime it for the wall graphic
Right.
anyway.
Yep.
So
Yep.
if we paint it, you can,
Well, we do have graphics people that wrap vehicles. Is it kinda like a vehicle
Looks like
wrap?
that.
Yeah,
over there.
yeah, yes, it's kind of
See,
like,
like
yes,
that.
yep,
Yeah,
yep.
But we got people that do vehicle wraps here in town.
I call it like a designer wallpaper, because you're basically designing it and they print it out on these big sheets. You know, it's a custom
Custom wallpaper.
wallpaper, yeah.
4-foot wide strips,
Yeah.
laser printed, and
So you guys could do that at any time. Doing it now there's no savings, I guess, to you guys except cost, if costs go up. But you guys might be able to find someone, maybe, I don't know, Beeline probably was doing it for you guys. If you find maybe someone local, maybe someone that would want to, participate in that, or I don't know.
And then
really,
that thing doesn't have to be the full length of it.
No,
We
no,
can
it
put
doesn't
We
have
can
to.
make it anything we want.
You can make it
logo,
anything you
something
want,
there right in
yeah.
the center.
and instead of being one giant one,
Yeah.
you cut that down to 3-4 smaller
Yeah.
ones, and your price is gonna be less as well,
And
just
like-
because of the,
so where I was prior to coming here in Burlington, I believe that the National Guard actually chipped in to buy some of the vinyl wrap they did outside of the gym. 'Cause they had like National Guard logos on it
Yeah.
and stuff, so.
So you could always partner with someone local, or maybe someone wants to do that, and, yeah.
Okay, I think that's something to consider. We could ask Eric Myers what his square foot price is.
The next one on here, so
$50 a foot.
we had ceramic tile, at the restrooms. We have a set of restrooms outside of the commons area that sits here by the media center. We had, ceramic tile on the floor in there, and then on the walls, I call them wet walls, they're the walls with the wash fountains on them. Or the hand basins, hand washing stations. Just doing a high performance paint, so it would be JIP, it is JIP boarded already, so it would be a high performance paint, so a little bit higher quality paint. And having that as polished concrete, which is right outside the area already is polished concrete. So you can see that credit for that restroom is just under $6,000.
What kind of long-term maintenance cost could we incur if we eliminate that?
Your drywall cost is probably your longest term maintenance cost there. Cause drywall, with water. But the high performance paint does help, but yes, you would definitely have some maintenance on those walls. You'd probably have to do every other summer, I would say, at least a coat of paint.
I don't know if it'd be that, I don't think it'd be that often.
Depends how hard the kids are, I guess.
Yeah. If they kick it every day,
Right,
they're gonna have more cost.
yeah.
Tell me about the polished concrete in the shower area.
In the shower or in this area here? In the bathroom area
Well,
here?
it says eliminate concrete there, in the restrooms.
Yes,
Eliminate-
restrooms, yep.
You know, in the showers?
Yep, we can go over that one, that's
Okay.
in there, yep. So we were just doing polished concrete in the women's and men's. The downside of the polished concrete, and I'm gonna be honest, is that, anything acidic could etch the polished concrete. So that happens, so just keep that in mind. We've done this at restrooms before, polished concrete. But yeah, just something to be aware of, that you could see some etching on the floor if it's not cleaned up regularly.
Or if a girl goes in with acetone,
Yeah, nail
nail polish
polish.
remover, and she dumps the bottle over and
Yep.
doesn't tell anybody,
Yeah,
well, now you've got a spot.
yeah,
You got a spot.
yeah.
I'm sure that's a good idea.
So, something to be aware, but let's go to the showers. Go back to the showers here. So for the shower area, we have that as concrete block right now with a tile floor and a ceramic tile base. We were proposing to eliminate, or this is just an option on here, to eliminate the ceramic tile on the floor in there. And that would be a credit of $10,700. Nothing, so the floor would just be a concrete floor in there. It wouldn't be, there wouldn't be any type of polished in there or anything in those restrooms.
Could be difficult to clean.
Yes. I mean, if it's just water and regular use, it'd be fine. If something happens in there, if there's a lot of chemicals, yes, that could be a challenge, kind of a similar challenge you have with the polished. Polished concrete just tends to show etching a lot more because it's porous, right? It hasn't, yeah, exactly, it's open, that's when you polish that, you open up the pores again, so. So the next one here, I wanna talk about the casework all at once. So let's talk about the total casework budget, which is A18. That total casework budget is $65,000. That was a question that was brought up at one of our conversations like a week ago, what that was, just kind of out of curiosity. Right now, casework is cabinetry. So we have cabinetry in the classrooms, we have cabinetry in the admin area, in the nurses area. That's kind of where most of your cabinetry really is, in those areas. A little bit in the media center, but not much. I don't even know if there's any actually in there right now, but, so very few areas with cabinetry. We have a couple options that are related to that. Reducing the classroom cabinetry in half. So if I can get my, I've not had issues with this, so I do apologize.
So if you join that Zoom
Yeah, I could've.
that way.
Let's see here. I'll make sure my sound's off though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, hopefully this will prevent us from having this issue.
Is that a file you can share to,
Yeah, yep, I can give it to,
or is there a way you can give it to Cameron to put it up?
oh, right now, yeah, I certainly could. Yeah,
Are you in the Zoom?
I'm trying to.
It's all tech stuff, I don't know how to do.
So the other casework item on there as well is reducing some it's the next line item on that. So we talked about having half the, and I'll show you actual visuals of this in a second, but reducing the casework in the classroom in half. There are some areas in the office in the office area, and then on the teacher workroom that we have some casework that we could eliminate as well, so. Okay, I think I'm in. Just hope I don't have any issues with,
Just don't turn on your mic,
Yep.
it'll be fine.
I'm not even gonna join the audio.
And then just share your screen and I'll make sure it goes.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay, hopefully that was better.
There we go.
Okay, so for casework, let's go to, I'm gonna go to the plan first and just show you where that classroom casework's located. Every piece of casework in the classroom is located along the wall at the entry door. So we have a piece of casework here, we have a piece of casework here, every classroom, you can kind of see that there. And every classroom has the same type, it's all the same. So one thought was we could potentially cut that classroom casework in half. And you could supplement that with furniture style casework, or you could do it later if you needed. So this is the classroom, this is an elevation of it, so if you're looking right at it, you have a wardrobe cabinet, you have upper cabinets and lower cabinets, and then you also have a nice countertop there for working, and then you have a tall storage area there. So the wardrobe cabinet has a little area where they can put their coat, any personal items, and it has a lock, so. But the thought was you could eliminate half. So to eliminate half in each one would be about 23,500. So to eliminate half of that casework, and you can see the total budget of that casework is 65,000. So that's about a third of that budget there.
How's that impact the classroom, Brad? The whole classroom
How like,
experience?
I can't see like how long are we talking now? How much is there?
9 feet.
9
You
feet of
you
it?
eliminate 9 feet, yep, so it has
6
18
feet
feet,
of
right?
You have
countertop.
6 foot of countertop left.
Yep. 6 foot
Okay.
countertop with a storage unit.
You'd end up with one of these tables,
Yeah.
that's all you get.
Yeah, that's, I mean, storage is a premium.
Absolutely, we don't
and
have any, we don't really have a lot of storage in it.
Like our third floor, when we remodeled it has the built-in casework and
Yeah.
it makes it much,
So this would be a negative impact on the classroom.
I think so.
Yeah.
The next line item there, which is just, just under 3,000, so not a ton of savings there, but we did have some tall storage units, so about 7 foot by 3 foot units in this office here, which would be the AG, the activities director office there. We also had a countertop located in the reception area to the guidance, so that students could come in, they can kind of work there standing if they need to, if they come into guidance. That was the thought behind that. And then we also had, in the teacher workroom, we do have casework that runs along the north wall. I don't recommend changing that just because that's your mailboxes, that's for lunch prep, that's all of those things. I think that's important. But we do have some additional storage along that south wall with a 6 foot base cabinet with uppers that run along the top for computers or paper storage, things like that, because there is a printer copier there. And then the storage unit here, you do have storage though as well attached to that you guys could line with shelving and things like that too. So that wasn't, you're not talking a huge amount of savings. So the 2,800 there for that one. We also looked at, so sometimes aluminum framing can be more expensive than hollow metal doors. So aluminum framing would be what you have at your front entry here. It's that kind of clear anodized aluminum, looks metallic. It's a nicer storefront framing. Or you could have like a hollow metal door, which is, I think that's a hollow metal door back there. But it's more your standard, a little bit more industrial looking door on the exterior. We've done that occasionally. So we reviewed that at a couple different areas. At the, entry coming out of the loading dock, there. At the exit area from the court.
Is that per door or?
No, that's total, yeah. So again, very small. I'm gonna just, maybe I should.
Which are the better doors?
Aluminum, so I would not change them.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation for that price,
I
but
would-
it was
I would say
something,
so.
it was something that we said we would look at. so
I
wanted
we
to
appreciate it,
bring
yeah.
When you're coming in from the dock, if you're gonna be banging things
Yeah.
into it, a steel door might make more sense there, but anywhere else, I would,
Well, and you
I would
have-
stick with the
yeah.
aluminum.
And you have a
especially with
steel
that
door
cost.
coming in from your dock already.
Steel prices
Yeah.
are still high, and that's part of why
Yeah.
you're seeing such a small.
And lead times are really
Yeah,
expensive
outrageous.
on those hollow metal doors right now in France. Like weeks, like
I
months.
would stick with the aluminum.
Okay,
That's, I would
yeah.
just,
It, again, not a ton of savings there, so I don't know if we wanna do that. Eliminating the clear story and the raised ceiling in the classroom wing. So the classroom wing, we have all of these classrooms here, and then we have this angled classroom in this kind of triangle space, in this corridor space. We actually raise that up to try to let some light in above that lower roof of the classroom, to let some light in there, so that that space could really be used more as a breakout space. You'd have some natural light coming in from the outside. We looked at an option to eliminate that, so that everything would be the same level. I'll show you the elevation. So if we were standing at the, if we were standing this location, so our classroom wing is here, we were standing at this location here and looking that way, that's that elevation that I was looking at here, this one, right here. That would be eliminating this top, this kind of bubbled area that you see there. So all of those windows, that was a red volume, so eliminating the red volume there and bringing that down so that it's all the same roof level, instead of having that bump up. And you can see that that would be a cost savings of $51,000. So that's pretty substantial, to just eliminate that back down. Now, you wouldn't have as much natural light coming into that space.
Yes. So that's, so when I look at that, it's just like, man, I really love the look and the natural light, but, so if we eliminate that, now we've got to, was there lighting in there anyways?
Yeah.
So do we have to
Yes.
add back in lighting?
No, lighting's in there already.
So it's not gonna change any of our electrical costs?
No, it's actually gonna help some of your electrical, and we'll go into that, because if we eliminate that, we have to change the lights that we propose in that space.
Okay,
So-
so we actually get better under utility cost.
You'll actually get yeah, because you'll get more cost back for some electrical that we can switch up fixtures to be a little bit cheaper.
it'll set different.
So
Yeah.
we get
different style
multiple,
picture.
Different
multiple
styles,
savings.
yes.
Yeah,
So I really like the architectural look of it, but
and that's exactly right, it's
Yeah.
a great, it's one of those things that
Yes.
designers and architects put in that looks fantastic.
Yes, but
but
there's
it's-
cost,
it's
yeah,
cost.
yep.
So, and I know it was brought up at the last, well, one or two times ago, on that angled section.
Yeah,
Is there any cost difference with it being like that versus just your traditional
I mean,
straight line, I guess?
Minimal.
Okay.
You would, if you think about, you just bring that wall back in straight, you're gonna eliminate 6 feet of footing and wall and
it'd probably be like your
material.
gym, right? Eliminating like 10 feet of your gym. It'd probably be less than that.
Yeah, it would definitely be less,
Yeah,
I would say.
yeah.
It's
Okay. I don't know, I can't remember who it was.
I think
we're gonna save a couple $100 with the surveyor, not having to lay it out that way.
Right.
And that's
Okay.
really about all the savings you're gonna get out of that.
But you do have some, I just wanna point out, you do have that natural light coming into that corridor, if you were to eliminate that from this doorway here.
Yeah.
And from the south entry as
What do
well.
those doors look like?
Those are a full glass door and side lights, so you'd have
Okay.
quite a bit of light opportunity there.
And what are the classroom doors like?
The classroom doors are,
Solid or?
the classroom doors themselves are solid, there's a light that is next to them. There's a door light that is next to them. Let me get you that.
That's probably for fireproofing, isn't it, that they're solid?
No, it's just that we have we typically don't do a door light in the door itself if we have a window next to it.
So you do have a window next to it?
Yes,
I'm looking for that.
Yep, I'm gonna get you there. I'm gonna show you the elevation here of that. This one right here. So you have a solid door,
Yeah.
and then you have a side light, is what we would call that.
Okay, so we would have,
Yeah.
and there's of course a window in every classroom.
Yep.
So then the light would shine through the classroom
Yep.
and through that.
Yep, and your,
Okay, I'm
When-
feeling a little better about that.
and then your windows that, your windows in your classrooms are pretty large. They're pretty,
Yeah.
large windows. So they would, I think, provide quite a bit of light through that bar of light,
Yeah.
as long as your teachers don't cover them up. We've seen that before too, but
And what would be the ceiling finish in that hallway?
it would be a lay-in ceiling finish.
What,
Like a lay-in 2x2,
Acoustic panel.
acoustic panel, 2x2,
Okay.
yep. It'd be actually similar to what we designed it as. Right now, it's designed with an acoustic. This is the ceiling plan, so if we're laying on the floor,
it just
we're looking
drops
at.
down?
Yep, it drops down. These lights here, these pendant lights would be eliminated. We would do I would recommend doing the troppers, because they actually hang, because we have the elevated space, so those lights are pendant lights that come down and hang. And those troppers are under the electrical to change them out. That's the H ones, right? Oh, yeah, yes, yep. So it would be about $5,500 to change those lights out, like a credit. It'd be, so on top of the 51, you would have the 55. So you're talking about like 56,000.
The lights are cheaper.
Yes, the trapper lights are cheaper, correct, than these pendant lights, yes. So that's that one. I think the architectural list is one of the longest ones, so once we get through that, okay. The locker room area, I wanna make sure I didn't miss anything, locker room area. There. We talked about potentially eliminating a few lockers in the locker rooms and just, you could do hooks if you needed them. So we would eliminate these two locker areas here that are outlined in blue, and the lockers along the south wall here would stay. But you guys would definitely be able to use that wall space for hooks or different things like that. So to do that, it would be 6,300.
That's leaving, like, didn't you say it was like 30 boy lockers and 30 girl lockers, and we left that
Yeah.
out or something in that order?
Yeah, 'cause they're doubles.
So that's still a number of lockers, yeah.
Yes, it would be about 30 some. Yep. Yep. Because we have a couple ADA lockers that don't have the that aren't double stacked. So,
Well, that is something you could add later.
easily, yes, you could definitely add it later. Okay,
So on your spreadsheet,
yeah,
you've got the $65,000 total casework.
yes, yes.
And you've got a $23,000 reduced casework in half.
Yeah, those are kind of doubled up, yeah.
Okay, I just wanna make sure that
Yep.
$900,000.
Yeah, no.
65 contains the
Yes,
23.
correct.
That's what I was-
Yeah, it's
that's what
not,
I-
yeah, you can't add those together to equal the total, that's an
Okay.
independent line item, I should have
Yep, no,
clarified that
that's
a little bit
okay.
more. So then there's a couple other ones down at the bottom that, are a little bit, why you're seeing such a high architectural number there. To not demo the building and fill in the hole and all of that, you could save about $559,000. If that's something you guys are interested in, we threw it on there, it's a big number, we thought it would be something that you'd wanna think about. I mean, depending on where budgets come in and what you guys, after today, how you feel about things. The other item, and maybe you can speak a little bit to the electrical and gas usage for the project.
Yeah, it's a guess, and we're typically gonna guess to the high side depending, we compare it to other projects of the size, what our usage costs looking like, what have we paid in the last 2 or 3 years? But it is a yes, we've missed it. Typically, we're high and we miss it low. It's lower than that. And, you know, you guys can end up, you're gonna pay different usage costs than we do as well. You got a better rate typically than what we're going to get. And so you take that out of our contract, you take that over.
Oh, we take the cost on it.
Yes, you
Yeah.
provide that to us in place of us.
So because the way you've written the specifications, they're required to provide their own utilities. Yeah, I mean, they might tap off of one of your mains, but they'll have their own meter. That will be, they'll have to pay for that.
Their own bill.
Yeah,
Right. We'll either have to run a new service
Yep.
or tap into
Yep.
yours and sub-meter yours.
Yep.
Okay.
Or if you provide it, we just tap
We
in.
have a interesting challenge with that one. Because aren't we on the contracted, Lisa, are we on the contracted
You will
insurance
pay for
program?
that.
You're also paid up in the general fund. Smart to see.
But is this part of our utility insurance?
The guess
Yeah.
No, but if you change something structurally according to that contract,
Right.
you have to let them know.
There's a program in the state of Iowa for schools, if you're aware of it, that you can now join a consortium where you buy your utilities through an insurance program. And we've already contracted for usage. If that usage changes, then there's additional costs and we would have to disclose that to them.
Would we have to decide on the demolition of the building and filling in the hole right away?
Yeah.
So would not demoing that eliminate the student lot? Because that's my concern with that, because I'm seeing with the amount of the current lower lot that's taken, how are we on parking spots during the day now, Brad?
That would be eliminated until after the.
I mean, we're not 100% full right now. We have with kids going to college classes either in the morning or the afternoon. Very seldom will we have everybody there in the building. But yeah, parking's gonna be tight when we eliminate.
So if we would have to lose that north lot to that could get real tight to get students in and parked.
At the
Which
completion of the project, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
But you're not gonna knock this down until the new high school's in.
right, yeah, it's gonna be tight during construction too,
Well, I
yeah.
guess what I'm proposing is that maybe we should ask for a separate bid from a separate contractor to take this down, to see where we're at.
You know any Amish who do that?
There's lots of guys in the building.
It is a nice big number to come off,
Yeah.
you know, it's,
That's one we're gonna eventually have to do.
It is, but we've also I know it was rolled into this bid, but it could be bid separately.
yeah,
definitely.
we can pull it out of ours.
Yep.
It's just a change order to pull it
Right,
out of our bid. And then you guys take it on. You
We can
can
rebid
shop
it.
your number a lot longer than we did.
Yeah.
You know, we only had this much time and we could only
Sure.
contact a few.
It's
You
gonna
have
say you
time
might be able
to-
to
And we're not
find
gonna do it for
local
2 years.
providers. That was, I think,
Right,
the biggest.
but then there's still some,
Then you're still gonna do it.
We're still gonna do it.
We're still gonna
It
do
still
it.
has to be done, absolutely.
Yeah, what I don't wanna do, and I think if the board says, we're gonna take it out of the bid so we can make all the math work right now. That my position personally is gonna be, we still are going to agree that we're gonna get it torn down at the end of the project, because what I don't wanna do is to kick that thing down the road 10 years and it never get torn down.
Well, it almost has to be part of the project.
It does.
We cannot just let it sit there and let the community wonder when we're gonna take it down.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. It's also the broken window theory. Everybody knows what the broken window theory is.
So,
Blight.
Yeah, I don't think, it's not something you wanna leave for 10 years.
No.
But it is something that it's hopefully moves this project along. You make that a separate project. It gives you more time to look, you know. And right now, contractors are extremely busy, and so some of the numbers,
And we would have 2 years to line somebody up.
Yeah,
yep,
yeah, but you can't come back in 2 years and say, oh, we changed our mind, you guys gotta do it. We
Right.
can't do
Not
that.
we're gonna bid it again.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
would have the right to rebid it. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah,
I think what we need to do is we need to research this real quick over the next week or two. And, you know, get somebody in here to give us some sort of a ballpark idea to see whether they were in the money or whether
Do
they.
you know who you had? Who was your son?
I don't know 100%. We had two, and I don't know which one was the low.
Okay.
One of them was the local site contractor that did the job,
Joiner?
Joiner,
Because that's the only one I know locally around here.
and he was, I don't remember whether his number was low or not. He was,
Okay.
and then we reached out to several larger companies that's what they do is demolition, and they just were too busy. We did get a number back from one, and I don't remember. I was gone last week.
No, that's
Got
fine,
it
that's fine.
together, so.
Because the only person locally I know to have, like you're suggesting, is Joiner to come in and tell us that.
But yeah, we like that one, it was a big number,
Yeah,
you know, it helps you guys, lets you move it along, lets you shop it, you know, it's like, you know, we get enough time to bid the job, but we don't get, hey, you know, how about you guys, or call somebody else, or, hey, you got a crew coming through, we don't have the time to do that like you would if you took it out, so.
so yeah, that's the total architectural items, if you wanna go next to food service. So food service, we thought, well, you could just eat this whole item out, but that will, and there'll be some cost for you guys, because you'll need some things for your you need some warming tables, serving, if you're still going to use Lakeview as your home base for food service.
And we just don't know how much that would be yet.
Not yet, no, but even if it's like 25,000, and that's probably generous. for
Okay, I was gonna
serving.
say like 50,000.
I mean, you could throw 50 just to be generous to it, and just to have a little placeholder on that. But I think what we would wanna do is if this is an option, you know, if you guys wanna eliminate this, probably getting with your food service provider
Yeah.
and making sure what do we have that we might need.
But that's also, again, 2 years that we have to put that in.
So you're not eliminating the building.
No,
No.
no,
Okay.
equipment only.
Square
Equipment
footage is
only.
there, all the drops are there, so
Yeah.
all the electrical drops and gas drops would be there?
Yes. Let's keep it.
The,
Keep
I guess-
rough all your connections.
All the rough-ins are there?
Right.
Okay.
You would- And some of them, we would probably just have wire pull,
Right,
because we wouldn't know
Yeah.
what connection
Right,
exactly you
right,
needed.
right, it's
And
gonna be behind
like
the walls, behind the panels.
Some of your,
Yeah.
some of them may just be left overhead above ceiling.
Yep.
Like your gas lines, because we don't know where.
right, so you'll
They
have
need to
some,
come in.
That's
you'll
fine.
have some work for that.
Yeah, as long as we're not running pipe through the entire length of the building, yeah.
No, it will be piped to that room at least overhead.
Yeah,
Okay,
And then if you decide, the only downside to it would be you might have to run some conduits down the wall. You'd have some exposed conduit as opposed to it being within the wall,
okay,
but not
in the kitchen, that's not.
yeah, it's not, you already have kids in there messing with them or anything, so it's,
so we are bound by our contract with OPA to provide and maintain the equipment. So I don't know what they have at the high school kitchen now.
well, that's what we're saying, we basically have that same equivalency.
It's not a prep kitchen now, so our only prep kitchen, because I just talked to the Opal lady a couple weeks ago, the only prep kitchen we have in district is at Lakeview right now. Eventually, they wanna move in the direction of like, at least in non-prep kitchens, like, they prep their own veggies there or something. But obviously, she said their goal is, as much prep as can happen in that individual building as possible is great, but they don't really force it on a district to make any changes for that.
So, you know,
So as long as we have warmers and things like that though, because we will.
I was gonna say you're gonna have to have warmers and
Yeah.
coolers and,
Well, that's the 25 to 50,000 we're talking about. What it does is it takes it out of this contract, and again, we have 2 years to look for stuff. And if, with 2 years to work with Open, says we're gonna put a little bit in over time. It gives us flexibility.
yeah.
we can even look and see, what we could do too is divide this a little bit more and say, okay, let's say we do need a cooler or a freezer, something like that. We can see how much that was as part of this project, and you could do that.
And they're
You know.
coming, next week to do an inventory of our stuff in each place.
Okay,
Let us know kinda like, you know, here's what you have, here's what we're thinking to do with it, so maybe some of our current equipment
Yeah.
might still be of some use too.
Yeah.
It would also be like year 3 of their contract before they use that. So we could modify that contract at that time. What it does is it gets us out of having to bond for it now. This is kind of like the demo in the building, it's something we're gonna eventually do. But it gets us moving forward.
Gets this project off the ground. They're a big number, that's a pretty big number, those two.
And we
They
don't
still
really-
have to be done, or something has to be done, but it gives you, in my mind, the district time to figure out how to fund that, or where they can move things around.
and the other thing too on that front is that you wouldn't necessarily have, if you're under the bidding threshold, you don't have to bid that. So you can go to more of a, you can just see what, you can get different quotes and
We
shop that a
we
little
can
bit.
bid one piece at a time.
Right, or you wouldn't even need, you know, I mean, technically, I think if you're, as long, again, as long as you're under your bidding threshold, you wouldn't
Which is
have
like
to bid it.
140,000, 130,000,
Yep, yep.
whatever it is.
Correct.
We may not even have OPA after 1 year, we don't know. We haven't experienced them, we may hate them.
Sure.
Who
Yeah,
knows?
it's too far down the road,
Yeah.
but this is a good option,
Something to consider.
yeah.
Okay, so civil options here.
Oh, so,
Okay, so the first one is eliminating that north parking lot, which is kind of in tandem with some of these, if you decide to do one and then you don't wanna do the north parking lot. But ultimately, this would just eliminate that north parking lot altogether. It would also, it would keep, there's an intake that we have there, right here. It would keep that so that if, you know, that connection, so if you ever wanted to put this in, you wouldn't have to redo that intake there. So, you eventually end up doing this parking lot here.
okay, that's right where this 1917
Yes,
building is.
correct,
Okay, got it,
yes,
got it.
yep, that's the north parking
Yep,
lot.
okay,
Right,
So that would be a credit of, you know, almost $39,000 there for that.
so that was gonna go in early, wasn't it?
No, that is going in after the demolition, yes.
yeah, because that's where the 1917 building
Yes,
is.
correct. The, down here, we have this temporary parking lot here, but it doesn't have any type of drainage, and it's not really set up to remain for a long period of time. It's just, it could be if you wanted to do that, but there would be costs associated with that, and we don't have that figured out right now. But the other option listed in the next one down is, to have the new parking lot not be pavement, but be gravel. But we would still keep the curb and gutter around there, so you could pave it if you wanted to.
I would go against that 100%.
So that's $107,000 of savings for that concrete.
You do gravel parking lot. you
The
get
sidewalks are
rid of
still concrete, correct?
It's a slip hazard and not to mention your cost of replenishing your rock.
If you were to do rock for a while and come back in concrete years later, how much civil work would have to be done to get it ready for concrete?
Depending on who did it, they'd come in with a skid loader, skim it off, or a grader, or a trimmer, go through there, and then it'd be ready to go. Because your sub base would be compacted. You know, if you wait a year or 2 years, that's just compacting your sub base even more.
Okay.
Just even better.
And you have a curb and gutter still around the
Yeah,
perimeter,
it's
so it's
still
not like
there,
you're
so they don't have
adding
to
it.
form, they're just
Yeah.
forming between their pores. You agree with that, AJ?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's not,
See, in a lot of these things, what's going through my mind, if you eliminate it now and do it later, how much more is it gonna cost later?
the only, your labor costs and your concrete costs. That's the only two things really that's gonna go up. Your labor is going to be the same, it's just how much percentage has they gone up you know, minimum wage or whatever you wanna call it.
I think the Indian Hills Building Trades Program needs a concrete project.
That and wood shop just don't stand a chance.
And, you know, we all, we're talking about eliminating that north parking lot. We have that temporary parking lot that could be left. We don't.
So that north parking lot after the school's gone is only 38,000?
Yeah, because it's not a pavement, there's no paving on
That is,
that,
that's a gravel lot.
only.
When we leave and that's done, that's a gravel lot on the north end.
And the reason for that, and what we discussed, was just that you're gonna have some settlement happening there.
Okay,
I mean, right, because you're filling in this big hole.
because you're talking, that's where your compaction comes into.
Yeah.
10 years of compaction.
Yeah, so we
Got
didn't,
it.
we didn't, you know, with also consulting with Hall Engineering, they really did not advise putting pavement on that yet until it had some time to
Got it.
actually settle. Otherwise, you'd see crap
You
concrete
know,
everywhere.
we're gonna compact it, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
But
So if we do the west parking
still
lot,
needs 2 or 3 years.
differential settlement,
Yes.
it's gonna happen.
Yes, go.
So,
if we do the west parking lot in whatever configuration, do we need the spaces in that north parking lot?
So if you, this west parking lot here or this
Right.
parking lot here?
Well, whatever, the 107,000 gravel versus concrete. The second line item in there. So
Right.
you're
we're
talking,
just trading that, with what's
Right.
there, aren't we?
so
Is there
If-
a parking lot there now?
do we need this one to have enough parking for students? Do we actually have to have it?
I mean, right now, we're providing you about as much parking as you currently have. If
This-
that-
with that.
Yes.
With
correct,
this?
Correct. That is giving you the same amount of parking as you currently have on site.
That's
Right
63
now.
spaces.
Yep, like, not the whole thing, every new parking area and then existing parking areas add up to the total existing parking areas you have now that we're also going to be eliminating with the new one. Does that
We're-
make sense?
We're gonna need this because it's so close to Simon Estes and so many people are gonna wanna park there to come into concerts.
Right. But it still needs to be gravel for 2 or 3 years.
I agree.
Back down.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, I'm just thinking for the number of parents and everybody that come in for this,
You gotta have that parking lot before, when we're all done.
I think we're gonna have that.
Where do those people park now with the existing building there?
It's, the issue is not where they're parking now, in my mind. The issue is when we have Christmas concert and you have parents and grandparents coming in the long walk from the other parking lot in. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and they will
It's
have
east of
this
the
parking
building.
lot too.
Yeah, east of the building, really for parents and for concerts. That's really what I'm thinking. Nothing else.
Right, and we're not showing the lines, but you do have this current parking lot here too, that's just staying, that's remaining, obviously, but, yep.
And I'm just, so aren't they walking that distance now? If we leave that east parking
No,
lot?
because a lot of them are walking where the new addition's gonna go, in that lower
Yeah,
parking
there's a
lot.
lower parking
Okay.
lot there. And then they're coming in the
Yeah.
building right there, I assume.
Yeah,
So again, if you take the savings for that north parking lot, we put in the new parking lot on the south, and we leave the temporary rock parking that we're putting in as part of the project now, and we don't remove it, doesn't that kind of solve?
How many spots are in the temporary lot?
We did not, you know, it's not completely laid out, but it's probably 40.
So it would still be about 20 spots down from what we currently
Correct.
have.
Yep,
so what you're saying is, take this out and just leave this, and have it all the parking and, okay, got it.
it,
And we can, you know, that's part of the project already.
so I did.
We
go-
put it in, we take it out.
Yeah,
We put it in, we leave it, there's a little more savings for the money that we were gonna take to haul it out.
So we kind of double dip a little bit
We expand that a little bit.
by not paying the cost to remove it, because you can take that out.
Yeah, it's not a big cost, I don't, you know, it's not $20,000 or 10,000, but you've already got it, it's just there.
you purchased the rock.
And then that allows you to not tear it, you know, you gain spaces and still don't have to tear the building down right now.
So this goes in the category of that, if we take it out now, it gives us 2 years to figure out if we want to do it or not.
Yep.
Because we're not gonna tear that down.
You're not tearing the building down.
Well, no, we are going to tear the building
Yeah,
down.
but not for 2 years.
Right,
Or
right.
Here.
Yes, it's in that same vein.
Yeah,
Just
I
so
hear you.
everybody knows that if we take dollars out and to make the project work, there's we're gonna have to have a side column for everything we're gonna add back in on our own. Because that, eventually we gotta figure out how to pay for that.
So the temporary lot,
Yeah,
would it, so since we're down 20 spots with that, would it be possible to net an additional 20 spots without a lot of cost? I mean, could the temporary lot be slightly larger?
I mean.
Because we're already talking about, Aaron and I went out and measured another spot for the band to practice on. So I think we were gonna try to get that temporary lot back, so our high school band could practice marching band there. And we've got a spot that we've netted, we've set off out behind the old gym that we're kind of flattening out for that purpose, so they've got their place. So that, we wouldn't necessarily need that grass back there.
You could, so the thing with that temporary lot, it doesn't have any drainage in it, so no storm drainage. There are no lights that we've currently added there. There are some lights that we're adding to this parking lot, there's two on either end of this bank and the center bank there. So just to be mindful that that temporary lot doesn't have, it is not the north gravel lot that is supposed to be more permanent. It is a temporary lot that was supposed to be used just to kind of relieve you guys during construction. But it doesn't mean that you couldn't make that more permanent if you eliminate the north lot. If that's not confusing or anything.
But that's already kind of extended out to where it starts to go down that hill there, where that lot goes out, that's what it looks like.
So for that north parking lot, you also have lights. So if you were to eliminate that north parking lot at about 39,000, your lights are 10,000.
Does that include running all the power over there?
Yeah,
So if you wanted, you could not take that deduct, you reroute those lights to that temporary lot that we're gonna put in and proposing. I mean, it's,
Okay. This is all stuff everybody needs to be thinking about over the weekend. Because we're probably gonna have a line item by line item vote whenever we do this.
okay, any other
I'm
questions
just
on
trying to
that?
process how we're gonna eventually come to agreement on this, but we're gonna have like a line one, yes or no, line two, yes or no.
Well,
That's why we're not
that
deciding.
may or may not work. I think we're more about if we have this package or this package or this package. Because if you start off with a line item, by the time you get to the end, it's all screwed up.
Well,
Because of the connection between the north lot and the demo.
but I mean, if we come up with we gotta be cognizant that we're gonna have these other ones that are part of that. Okay.
All right.
Eliminating all the seating, so as part of the project, by state required to reseed everything. And you can see that cost savings there, but that would still put it in your court to do, you still have to do that, it just, could you do it cheaper, would be the question.
All right, so here's, I know I'm gonna sound like a broken record on this one, but we don't have a landscaping group, but Indian Hills does. Could we have their landscaping in our partnership with them?
Could ask.
Because they actually have a landscaping group, could we contract with them to do that? Because that's what we did at the dorm, is we didn't landscape the dorm, and what they did is they had the landscaping do as part of the class project.
there will be, we're gonna have rutted areas and things like that that will smooth out, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be dirt and it's gonna be, in some places, 25 or 30 feet out from the building.
Okay.
So, right now, if we enter a contract, we have to seed that.
Okay.
You're gonna have to do some stabilization anyways of the site during construction, but that's not included in that final, that's just the
Correct.
final seating, correct? Okay.
That's not landscaping.
Yeah, I don't want there to be,
It's rough grade, not
yeah,
fine grade.
we're not putting trees and bushes and landscape rock up at next to your building.
The kids that
No,
had them in their
no.
first school in high school.
That is not, it was only seating.
Yep.
Okay, so electrical.
Sure.
And Joe, if you have anything as I'm running through the electrical on the next couple, please feel free to chime in. So one, I'm gonna go to the electrical plan here. Okay, so the first line item is eliminate the 2 jacks in each classroom. Or, eliminate 2 jacks in each classroom. So we have 2 locations for the desks currently shown that they have to provide, wire and everything too for data and all that. We could eliminate that, so we only have 1 location. And you can see that cost there. That's in every classroom.
Cameron, what are your thoughts?
I mean, you're forcing a teacher into one spot. I mean, it was kind of a,
Oh, that's what that's about. Okay.
Yes.
yeah, I mean, that was just a, a courtesy to let them have different options on where they wanted to sit.
Okay.
basically.
And that's really only gonna net you just under
Yep,
4,000, so not.
That's what we talked about, the Wi-Fi versus teacher location, because they need to be into it, okay.
Yep. The gymnasium, commons and sound system, so as part of this project, we included a sound system for the gymnasium and the commons area, and they can also work together in the same system. So you could have one event going on where they're piping the same thing into both. You can see that system is just under $69,000. So that's a pretty big cost there. Is that all, that's all the conduit and everything, correct? Okay.
Okay.
So
What are
that
the pros and cons of that one? That's a lot of money.
is a
That's
lot.
something we could do with a couple of Bigfoots pretty easily. I mean, that's what we did over in Burlington with a lot of that kind of thing. And they're like $3,000 to buy. They're portable, they're Bluetooth,
Oh, these are the ones
they're
I'm rechargeable.
rechargeable. They're fantastic. Yeah, they're really good. I would think that would be a smart way to do that, because then if you've got something like that that's portable, you can also use it if you do an outside activity. And so when student council does lunch on the lawn, if they still do lunch.
I'm here to tell you,
Yes,
I've
ma'am.
got stands and speakers, I'd give it to you.
All right, Jeff.
It's taken us.
I think that's an accept.
I mean, if you can get by
We can't vote on
that.
that, but
Yeah.
we're not voting, okay?
Sorry.
I mean, that stuff's just sitting in my shop doing nothing, it was given to us.
I mean, another thing to look at too is do you rough in anything in the precast walls to allow you to expand that system in the ceiling? Is there anything we need to look at there so that if you ever want, you would have to surface mount anything to the walls?
You mean through the ceiling?
Because the walls are a precast,
Right.
so you'd have to surface mount anything that would come to the floor. So is there
Right.
anything we need to maybe think about having roughed in or piped
What's,
in upon?
what's the ceiling structure?
The ceiling is just open
Open.
ceiling, so
Bar
you
joists
could
and steel
easily
there.
add pipe, you could easily add that later.
So there's gonna be trusses up there?
Yes,
Okay, so we could run conduit
Yes.
or a bus system through the
yes,
truss?
I'm just thinking in the walls, there might be some things we
Yeah,
need to think
if
about.
you think,
There's
if you're not gonna
potential.
put the system in, and you may
Yeah.
wanna put something in later, do we wanna put some raceways in that precast, a 3/4 inch conduit here or there that's into a blank box, that then runs up to
I
get
see.
you, that runs up to
Yes.
the bar joist level, so that you don't have to run a conduit down the wall in more of a finished space.
Okay. So so you probably are in your drawings, you already have locations where those would be for this sound system?
Yes,
Mhm.
I hope so. I didn't think about the electrical, but I hope so.
There, I see, I'm looking at it right now, it's pulled up. It doesn't exactly say all of the conduit run locations,
Right,
but it has,
box location.
yes, yeah.
Okay,
So,
so is from whoever's doing the precast actually puts those in, right?
The electrician goes to the precast site. The electrician is in charge of putting those in himself at the precast facility.
So that's already been in there, right?
Yes,
So does the 68,000 eliminate the electrician from going and doing that?
he has to go anyway. He had, whatever electrical box is in there, He's there at the precast plant.
So we should just say, leave all that precast in there, because that's really not gonna cost us anymore, right?
It would be certainly easier to install any conduit that is necessary for that system now than installing it later. So, yes, I would probably recommend that any rough-in.
Just leave all the rough in, because that's not gonna affect the cost. We're talking $68,000 of equipment and installation cost.
Is
I would-
that-
yeah.
is that-
I'll verify
We'll
that
verify
they,
the
that they did.
conduit, but
But
that
I
number
believe-
could change slightly.
But that does
it's
make
not
sense to
huge.
leave all that in the precast, just like it's drawn.
Just leave it
It's
as,
not costing us anything, and we got the flexibility.
We just won't pull any, just no wire will be pulled and nothing will be,
It'll just
nothing will be.
We'll have a blank cover
Yep.
plate, we won't have any holes in it, and there'll be a pipe and a box going up.
Flexibility is good.
Yep.
And that can be done in both the commons and the mission, so.
And this is Joe at Ferris. That's the same that we'd recommend. Definitely have the rough-ins there for future.
Okay.
Nice thing about having conduit that's run at least is, when they built our current high school, they never would have thought about Ethernet being a thing you'd wanna run to different rooms. So anything that we have conduit to run wires of our own through someday.
So you're talking,
Might take
what's the
care of that
Ethernet of 2050?
Right. What is that?
If y'all knew that would be.
Yeah, I need to make some investments.
Yeah.
You know what Ethernet is doing.
Well, I'll tell you, 25 years ago, one of the things that we loved to build a house was running ports to your room, and the jacks were like a 6 jack thing, because you had your telephone jack and Ethernet jack, and a cable jack, and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if anybody ever remembers those from about 25 years ago. And what happened within 5 years of that? It all went away through Wi-Fi.
Yep.
So the next line item is eliminate the north parking lot lights. That's kind of in tandem with that north parking lot discussion that we already had. And then some of the, Bi-State had some additional, thoughts on options. I don't know if you wanna talk a little bit about the next one there, the aluminum versus the.
Yeah, that one's got me concerned.
Yeah. So it only be the
We've
feeders,
done it.
correct?
Yeah, we've done it several places. Some people are really in favor of it for the money savings, and some people want absolutely nothing to do with it. It's a preference of your district, I guess.
Go ahead and talk to him about the risk factors, so, because you'll be better technically at it than I am, or maybe Ferris or somebody.
Ferris would be who I want to defer to.
Well, this is Joe at Ferris. I'm electrical, so I don't want to get into it too deeply. Kind of like you said, we've done it both ways. Typical standard is copper, but when we do come to a cost cutting measure, aluminum is acceptable and done often in that standard. The pros and cons, I'd have to get Bob Hott to provide more information. We can definitely share that with everyone, but he's not on the call today.
Yeah, I can get you that, but from my conversations, just kind of some side conversations with the electrical contractor too on that one. They obviously don't recommend it for feeding to the building, but
No.
running it to the feeders,
So where would it run from?
it would run from your transformer to the feeder,
To the feeder, meaning switchgear?
your panels.
breaker box gears.
Yep,
It's gonna go to the switchgear then?
yep.
Not-
Or,
Well,
No, not switch gear.
no,
Switch gear is a switch. It's just going to the breaker box where all the breakers are.
your main feed for the building, you're gonna have a
Okay.
transformer outside.
Right,
and
the
you're-
transformer's gonna go where?
transformers right outside very close to outside the building. It's like probably 20 feet from the building.
Okay, but the feed from the goes from transformer, where does it connect inside?
Into your main panel.
Main panel. Is there a main panel?
Distribution panel for the building will be fed by aluminum
Is
wires.
there a switchgear after that then?
Yes, I would say, I'm not an electrical engineer either, but
It's a very common thing in residential.
yes,
Almost, I don't know any residential that doesn't use
very,
aluminum
very, very rare.
as a main feeder.
And it is a common cost saver in commercial projects. It's just some
Okay.
people are really want it and other people want nothing to do with it, so.
I have somebody that can advise me on this and
I encourage you to speak with them, and so.
And we Bob provided a comment on it. He had no exceptions taken to that cost saving measure, but we can definitely use the pros and cons.
We can get you the. pros.
My oldest daughter's father-in-law was an operations manager of the Line Energy.
Yep.
I will ask him. And that would be my comfort level, because he's pretty safety cautious.
Yeah,
I get the cost savings, but
Yeah.
I'm in that
Yeah.
controversial crowd
Yeah.
on those.
and I think it has to be a decision you guys are,
Yeah.
want, you know.
It's what you're comfortable with.
Yep.
It's one that comes up a lot to us, and it's one that we offer. And like I said, it's probably 60-40. People that take it, that don't take it, and it's just,
Okay.
some people are more comfortable with the copper, and that's what they want, so.
So the next line item is a different type of cable for the branching wires where concealed. So using just a different type of, it's not basically the conduit, correct?
I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
And
That's
this MC cable is what?
It is a flexible, basically a flexible conduit, correct, Joe?
Oh, okay.
That is correct. It's something you'd see more on the residential side of it. It's not, you can't pull wire into it in the future, you know.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. I thought it was another
A lot
code
of
like
your-
CT for ceramic tiles, so.
Sorry.
A lot of your lights will be fed by what they call a whip.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you'll have a 4, depending on what we're allowed by spec, a 4, 3, 4,
Yeah.
5 foot long section of this. And what they're talking is where it's concealed areas, pulling it in longer stretches.
Got it. I'm okay with that one. I'm more okay with that one than aluminum.
Well, okay, but the point is that once it's installed and you want to add a circuit or add something else, you're not gonna get it through there.
I
It's
understand.
a one and done.
Right, you can't.
But there's
run
only
it-
so many wires you can get through a conduit too.
Right, but you can't get through there. MC cable, no. That's it. Whatever's in there is all you're ever gonna get.
How long runs are you talking about?
I would have to check, but I would assume that they're gonna be hard piped in walls and places like this to be above ceilings. So if you picture coming up that wall and then feeding over to that fan, typically we're allowed 3 to 4 feet for a whip, and they're gonna run the entire distance to the wall.
It's not quite as big an issue with tilting the suspended ceiling. You
Yeah.
can do anything you want in there.
Yeah.
See, in that kind of scenario, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, that part's okay.
But I mean, if we're running from a panel to a room to provide power to an entire room, no, that should be conduit.
I don't think that follows code.
I don't think we're,
Allowed to.
again, I'm not an electrical
Yeah.
engineer, I don't think we're allowed to do that.
I think
That's what I mean. I mean, I would be okay, if you got enough power into a room and you can have a box in there that you can take and pull another, if you got the amperage or voltage there, you could pull another line off, but once you're in a room, I don't know if it makes that much of a difference.
What they're referring to, and I believe is the branch wire and where concealed. So like, I'm thinking like down in the walls, from above the ceiling to run down to the walls to your receptacles and daisy chain them together like that.
That would be me. I'm not recommending.
Oh, that's where you're proposing to put it?
That's how I'm reading into it. You know, we have to double check with the electrician on that, but that's how I read into it. The branch wiring, not the main. The branch wiring off to each.
Yeah.
Well,
That makes
we'll-
more sense to do it
We
that
can
way.
get a little bit more
I'll
clarity on
verify.
that too,
Yeah.
and what the extent that they're looking at that.
You had some concerns about that?
I mean, it just depends, the 12,000, is that where you wanna do your cutting? Well, let's just see what the extent that they were proposing.
Do you not think that's a good idea?
Well, I just worry about the long-termness of it, but if it's just above the ceiling and it's an accessible space, I think that would be, there probably wouldn't be an issue.
I wouldn't want it enclosed in a wall.
No, I agree,
Yeah.
I agree.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So, I just don't want you to run into something in the future where like, why did we do that? I mean,
You're gonna get that.
I know, with anything I do,
Why did we
I
even
know.
propose that?
Why did we even talk about it?
Okay, so the next two are lighting fixture modifications. So the first one, the $5,500 one, is eliminating these round fixtures that we have. and just putting in a standard 2x2 troffer, so kind of like you see there. So we would eliminate these round fixtures that we have in these areas. And that occurs in the media center only, this little locker room area, and then at this little breakout space here in the corridor. So there are not very many of them, but they, you know, it's a substantial deduct, so you could definitely, break this up. Oh no, I'm sorry. That is, I'm off one, sorry, 22,000. So that is a very good deduct to do that. So if you don't want the round fixtures, that would be something to definitely consider. Those round fixtures are basically like a halo, where they have light on the bottom, and they're about a foot down from the ceiling, from the suspended ceiling. So they just add a little bit of ambiance to the space, but
One more of those
architectural
details that cost
things.
money.
Yeah, so, I'm sorry, so that's actually line item E8, and that's a $22,800 deduct, so that's a pretty substantial number. Again, you could always add that, something later if you really wanted to, if you got to the point where you wanted to, you could, but that's also not going to probably affect too much of that scheme, so. It is definitely worth considering that option. So sorry, let's go back to E7. And that one is if you were to eliminate that clear story, these lights would be changed out anyways, but we could actually change them out to troffers. The only thing is that ceiling, if we keep the clear story, it's actually angled, so the light of that troffer I wouldn't really recommend that if we don't eliminate the clear story, that 5,500. I would keep the pendants in there if that clear story isn't eliminated, so.
So why is that a better light than?
So that ceiling at the clear story is angled, and so the troffer would sit in there at an angle, and it wouldn't, I mean, the light would be a little bit.
The drop down lights would hang straight down.
Yes,
Yes.
correct. So that would be, I would recommend keeping that if you kept the clear story.
Right, you clip the
Yes,
story.
correct.
I follow you now, I'm sorry.
Yep. So, but if you eliminated that, that would be definitely something I would recommend as a cost savings. So, that's electrical items, so let's go to plumbing. So I don't think there was much this first item here, there really wasn't much savings about changing to a different fixture manufacturer. We did look specifically at some specific items below, so you'll see that and we'll kind of run through that. The lab in the bathroom space, P2, we have a 3-compartment sink that's all interconnected. We have to have 3 sinks in there in order to accommodate the lab requirement and load. And it looks like this. Okay,
Right.
that's the one we specified. We have 2 of those in the project, one in the women's and one in the men's. The option that they're recommending that we could go with is actually change out to 3 different individual labs like this. And that would be a cost savings of $4,300.
And why do we need 3 again?
A code, in order to meet the lab requirements.
Oh, okay.
Occupancy load, yep.
Well,
Yep.
that seems to be a pretty easy one to do.
But you could definitely do that, again, yeah,
Okay.
you'd have 3 individual sinks instead of one kind of troffer combined.
Well, there's social distancing at the same, so that's.
So that's an option. Maybe you could speak to the next one, Joe, the different piping type. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that one.
Okay, yeah, so what we have for roof drain piping and sanitary piping typically is there's 2 different pipe types. Typically we use PVC and cast iron. PVC, we typically always use PVC underfloor. But here in this building overhead, we have called out cast iron overhead because we have a return air plenum. Code requires the piping smoke and flame spread on that. So with that, we have to have cast iron pipe, or there is a potential that's been allowed by some fire marshals is having PVC as long as it's insulated, fully insulated and wrapped. That insulation wrap, that fire and smoke But there is some risk with that, and that's why we have to get that fire marshal approval on that. You guys catch that? I know it sounds like I'm cutting in and out.
You are cutting in and out, but basically the roof drains are cast iron as the project shows right now. We already have an insulation and wrap with the drains because it's required. But what Joe is saying that we can potentially switch out to a PVC roof drain. We have to wrap it with insulation and we need to verify that the state fire marshal would accept that alternate.
I get nervous about something where the statement is some fire marshals are okay with this for safety. Like, I feel like I want all fire marshals to deal with safety things for our students personally. That concerns me.
Well, it's just like anything else. There's code, and then it's the eyeballs that are looking and interpreting the code. I mean, not taking anything away from Joe, but he was talking about the wiring, how he interpreted the drawings, right? So that's just how that works. And so some fire marshals get more concerned about 18-inch clear space above lockers, and some don't.
It's like 10 dentists.
Yeah, it's like 9 out of 10
recommend
dentists.
brushing your teeth, the 10th doesn't, I guess.
So guys, the risk there is on this is PVC is highly, once if it's exposed to a fire, it's going to give off chemicals, right?
Yep.
And those chemicals could affect it. So if it's wrapped, that wrap will protect it for X amount of time. It won't give it all those chemicals. But if it's left unwrapped or the wrap starts falling off, you have that potential for exposed PVC.
So as long as we're not hanging out during a fire.
Yeah,
probably
right.
okay then.
And it's one of those things that we used to have a lot of conversations with fire marshals when they come out to the site. Well, we'd like to see you do this. We'd like to see you do that, but what am I required by code? This is what the plans say, and this is what the code says. If you want me to be forced to do that, then you need to change the codes. And so it's one of those things.
So the code says we could do this.
It's interpretation.
Yep, depends on the
But
fire
we
marshal
probably
reviews your
need to
drawings.
it would be best practice to confirm and check with the inspector because we don't wanna end up taking it. And we can check with them prior to you guys making a selection, but, we don't wanna take it and then we're sitting there and we have to add it, cause I would hope it wouldn't go up, but you don't know, so. So what we can do is we can check with the state fire marshal if they would allow it. Cause the state would be reviewing here, I believe, on this project, so. Overflow scuppers is the next one. That one it sounds like there really wouldn't be much cost savings just with the roof changes and stuff, so we're not gonna go into that one, but that was something we did look at. And then there are several different fixture, manufacturer, and items on here we could switch to. Joe, I don't know if so one of them is changing a valve at the shower to a Zern valve versus, I don't know if we have like a plus and minus of each of these fixtures that you could maybe give for a summary of what you would or would not recommend, Joe. Maybe that's the best way.
Yep.
Since
Yep,
you've had
that's
alternate products used before.
That's fair. All of them actually, I have a little real spreadsheet here. All of them I'd recommend. I mean, you wouldn't know the difference between any of them. And it's just, some have manufacturers are, more, and then none of these manufacturers are listed as the cost savings are generic type manufacturers. They're all definitely well-known manufacturers. We do it all the time. Speakman. I mean, there's just some times cost savings within those suppliers. So I think no exceptions to any of that stuff, and I don't think you guys would either.
Is that good, or do you want to run through each one of those?
Not for those dollar amounts, we don't do it
Okay.
for all of them.
Okay.
That's more of a sourcing issue, right?
Yeah, and it would just be like what's more readily available, or just what's manufacturer charging these days, and some might be a little bit more helpful than others. Okay, so mechanical. Joe, I am gonna have you run with M1, just because this is, I think, a little bit more involved.
Okay, so the big one that here is M1, which is changing out the system. Currently, the system we have now is an air-cooled chiller that's grade And then in the mechanical, there's chill water pumps that pump water over to the air handlers for the cooling of those units. Big change would be changing those units on the roof. They still have rooftop units like you have now, but they get a little bit larger. And we put the condensing compressor on the roof. Each one has its own condenser compressor section instead of do it at a central location.
Yeah, Joe, it's real hard to hear you.
I don't know if my internet connection is hearing better.
Try it a little bit closer.
Yeah. How's that better?
That is better.
Seems better.
Okay. So, anyways, all the condensing cooling is done at the unit instead of at the air cooled chiller at a central location. So I don't know if you have that plan up, Rochelle, that shows a mechanical room. So two of the pumps will be eliminated for sure. And down in the corner, the RE1 would be eliminated. As well as the pipes to the outside where the air chiller sits.
Could he call in?
Yeah, maybe, Joe, could you call in? Do you guys have a number in here that?
Is there a number?
Call the main number, maybe? Yeah, call the main number. I don't know what the extension is.
10:50.
Can you just call the main district office number, Joe? It's just hard to hear you. You keep cutting in and out, sorry.
Right now? What's the, we got buckets of.
Yeah, let me look that up and I'll give it a call.
Okay, just mute yours.
Okay. And you guys are painting that west wall. Looks like there's a coat paint. Yeah, that'll be the same. Okay. I didn't see any extension cords.
I guess I would just add to the plumbing changes on those valves. I would check with your maintenance people, because some of them take some providers over others, and just make sure that they're comfortable if you want to make any of those changes. I've gotten yelled at by lots of maintenance guys for the valves we put in.
What shot?
Well, I know there's one thing too that.
It's for the kitchen ladies. The kitchen ladies, they're,
Like the restrooms were the sensor operated ones, and when they remodeled our location at work, they were absolutely terrible.
Okay, you just said I'm changing them out.
So, again, I don't know if it's gonna be earth shattering, but it's something to consider.
We're talking high school students.
So once we get, Joe, we can get through that, and then that's really the bulk, then we've kind of gone through every single one. And I don't know if anyone has any feelings on certain things that we know we wanna reject, or not even reject, or just talk about these bundles.
Yeah,
We wanna create some bundles.
Yeah, I'm kind of, as we're going through this, I'm going through my head how I want to handle this.
Hey, guys, I'm called in, but I'm into the directory. Who should I pick?
Superintendent office is fine.
Or just dial 1051.
Can we call him?
We can call
Yes.
him.
Would that be easy if we
I
just
was
call
also,
him?
I was kind of thinking that too.
Joe, should we just call you?
Oh, they're connecting me.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay, so I don't know how to work this
sewage.
There we go.
Okay.
You know, it's like a washer and dryer, but some of this other stuff.
That's too fancy a phone for me. Okay.
All right, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, I'm gonna turn this around so you may hear a little feedback here for a second. This way it projects out. All right, go ahead.
Okay. So the system we designed is very similar to what we have over at the existing high school right now. An air-cooled chiller sits outside. We have a mechanical room that has pumps and a remote evaporator coil. And then we have piping that goes from the mechanical room that pipes to the air handlers. Our air handlers here are on the roof, and whereas like over the existing high school, the air handlers are inside in the mechanical rooms. But we have air handlers on the roof that sit on the roof that distribute air to different areas, and we have multiple air handlers, so we can run different zones and have some different control. What was recommended by the mechanical contractor as a cost savings would be to the air handler on the roof, instead of having the air-cooled chiller and the mechanical room portion of it, put it all on the roof. So we'd have compressors on the roof, we'd have everything on the roof, the cooling coil, instead of having the compressors on the grade. It'd be a package unit. It'd be very similar. What we have, as you guys are familiar with, what went over at Howard right now, what's going on inside for phase 2 of Howard, essentially a unit like that would sit on the roof in lieu of what we show right now.
So we're eliminating a lot of piping is what we're doing.
What's that?
Does that mean basically the cost savings are eliminate a lot of piping?
Where the major cost savings comes in eliminating the piping, correct? So you have no chill water piping, and I think this price includes the hot water piping to the air handlers as well. We still need hot water piping. We still need hot water piping in the building because the hot water piping runs the air handlers for heating, and it runs cabin unit heaters. It runs the VAV boxes that are at each classroom. So we still need boilers and hot water piping, but the piping would possibly decrease. And I guess I'd like to find out what this number, this 84,000 all has in it, because I see you said DX and gas rooftop instead of 4-pipe air handler, and then doing chiller and piping. So we want to look at that a little bit, but that is a good option. I mean, the downfall, the biggest downfall of that option would be probably you have compressors on the roof, right? So if you have a compressor goes bad, you gotta get up there to replace service guys get there to replace the compressor. And then you have refrigerant on the roof and that kind of stuff, which is a little bit of concern, but it's not uncommon by any means. It's very, very common, but it's different than we have over the high school right now. So right now, if you have a compressor go bad, it's on grade, the guy can get to it fairly easy. Whereas now on the roof, the way it's designed, main thing you have an issue on the roof is we lose a fan motor. We have to put a different fan motor in there. Pretty small motors. I think we're about 7.5 horsepower motors. Not a lot of weight on the roof as far as that goes. We'd have to look at the structural because the unit would actually get longer, and then our configuration of our ductwork would change a little bit because of the placement of the unit and how that falls in the spot. And then electrical is a shift because obviously we put a lot more, right now, a lot more power goes to the air-cooled chiller that's located on grade near the mechanical room, and the pump, that would be distributed out to, instead of at that local location, and it'd be larger stuff out to the rooftops.
Okay.
I'm sure there's a lot of questions there too.
Well, I understand the
Okay.
concept of it.
Okay.
Would all of the controls for the air handlers be on the roof or down in the mechanical room?
The controls, like,
The control,
oh, go ahead, Joe.
yeah, it's very actually there, guys. The controls would not be on the roof. I mean, the controls are still built into the unit. so you'd have no worries with that. It's really no different than you have now. Anything that's different, really anything that's different than what you see on the roof is that you would see, like the compressors and the condenser section like there on the roof, which I said has a little bit of chance for some noise.
What part of the building would it be in?
I didn't catch that. What was that?
What part of the building will it be in?
Every air handler would have that be updated to have compressors on it. So we have air handler 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's on every part of the building to be affected by it. So essentially, we have no chill water anymore. We use it all. We do all direct expansion refrigerator piping.
So basically, the compressors are moving right next to the air
Right.
handler.
Instead of one massive compressor, there's a dozen small ones.
Yeah, so right now the large compressor is located right here, just south of the building, next to the food service there.
That's definitely it's gonna be some more noise.
At the unit.
At the unit, outside.
But it's at the air handler in the ceiling.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so you know when you go into that motel room where it's that through the wall unit?
Yep.
You know what that air conditioner sounds like?
Yeah.
Versus going to a quality hotel where they don't have that.
The one, I think that's a good thing to talk about. The locations that we're currently showing, and Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but those we would try to maintain those locations. But the two air handling units that were located over here are above the, locker rooms. And then this is about a corridor / teacher workroom area. And then this one is above that, locker room area. So we don't have any above a classroom, above an office, just kind of, just so
It
everyone.
might not be so bad.
Yeah, definitely better, but you still something to
So-
be mindful of, think about.
Does everybody understand the concept, what they're proposing? That's a good analysis, the difference between central air and through the wall units. That's really what it is. Because that central, basically they're running chilled air to cool all these superfluous, I shouldn't say superfluous, that's, because I can't say that word. All the,
Other stuff.
All that important stuff.
y'all get it.
So,
I know in my mind how to explain, I can't make the words come out, I just do well in English.
What is the roof
so
access gonna be?
with the one
We have
compressor,
Right.
if something goes wrong with that, then the whole thing
That's,
goes down.
right, and that's,
So this
And then
actually,
ladders.
you could have a unit that's
Just
just
like
down.
bolted on
but it
the
doesn't
wall
affect the whole
ladders?
building.
That's
Until you
actually
get to the
good.
outside, but the alternating
I'm not
trend is
sure about that.
inside, you
You
get a
have
mechanical
cool-
room.
I mean, you have to provide
Got a roof
Through a
hatch,
roof
mechanical
hatch.
room.
cooling water to that unit.
That's,
Satellites, that's what satellites was.
It's not quite that simple.
I do.
Yeah.
Joe, the question is, in the current design, if we lose the outside chiller, we lose AC to the entire system, but in the new proposed, if we lost one of those units, we only lose to that part of the building, we still have in other parts? Or does it not work?
That is correct. So every unit has it's an independent system. So air handler 4, for instance, serves the gym. That can run. You can actually potentially have some savings potentially as far as energy savings. Because say you set back the rest of the building, and that building there you run a little heavier because of activities on the during the week. So you definitely can you have more redundancy built in your system.
Anything else on this item? Okay. M2, the duct insulation, duct liner types. Joe, do you want to run through that too? Just quickly?
Yeah, so on these systems, there's two different, a lot of the ductwork is either externally wrapped, or we provide an internal acoustical liner, which does the same thing, helps prevent the condensation and forming on the ductwork with the different temperatures. Since we have 55-degree air, and we have a surrounding space of 70 plus. So there's duct lining that we have in there, and there's a couple different types of duct lining that's available. A lot of times we use the Armaflex. It's more of a rubber elastic. Something you probably see assembly on refrigerant piping from your maybe home condensing unit outside to your inside unit. It's a little more resistant to mold and all that kind of stuff. So we think we do that. A lot of times you'll see that, but then there is another product out there where it's more of a fiberglass, it has the fibers in it, and it has an antimicrobial coating on it, so it's supposed to resist any kind of mold growth, if any moisture difference there. So it's usually one that we accept quite often. It's a pretty good savings, and it won't affect the noise, it won't affect the condensation, it won't affect the human comfort. It won't resist mold.
Okay. So that's M2.
Yep,
That's just basically a material spec change.
yes,
Okay.
yep.
Correct.
That'd be 20,000 deduct there about. M3, Joe, I'm just gonna kind of have you run through these.
Yep, no, that's fine. So M3 is, so we have places on the drawings, if you look, Rochelle has there, the places there that we have hatched are we showing double wall ductwork. So essentially we have a layer of sheet metal, we have 2 inches of liner, and then another layer of sheet metal, on that perforated sheet metal, so we can help mitigate noise levels. So some of those places, you know, we sometimes we'll put it on 20 feet or plus down on the downstream of the supply and the return, so we can mitigate some of that noise that rumbles off the air handlers. Even though you have, you know, even the ones that without compressor noise that can translate through the building, this is just for fan noise that you can get across that as air flows down. So we have a few spots that it's nice to have this for the noise level, and I think we would recommend it, you know, but here, if we want a package unit, I'd probably recommend it a little more because of the additional noise that could be there, but any questions on that?
So this is in isolated locations, not in classrooms.
Let's go look at the
Correct.
classroom. I'll show you. You can see.
It's usually about 20 to 30 feet on each side of the supply fan and return fan, give or take.
All right, let me see if I can form this question intelligently. I couldn't get the last one. I wanted to say satellite locations, what I wanted to do last time. The concern on this one, I think most would have, is most likely would affect sound. Would this affect sound in classrooms?
The sound would if you don't go with it, there's a potential for additional sound in the classrooms. I mean, like you see right there, we have our supply ductwork come down and we hit those VAV boxes, so the sound will travel, you know, so that double wall perforated liner or ductwork will help mitigate that, you know, reduce that sound.
Do you know by how much?
Not off the top of my head, no. I mean, it really just depends, guys. I mean, sometimes, you know, depending on what unit we end up getting, what rooftop, sometimes how the ductwork gets installed. You know, any kind of ductwork installation with, if we have some different type of fittings, you know, smooth, we look for smooth transitions. You know, that all helps, or turning vanes in our ductwork, so we can have the airflow not, you know, bang into the side of the ductwork and then bounce off it. So it just depends on how that kind of all gets laid out. You know, and then, so the way these systems work is you have medium pressure ductwork, so a little higher velocity ductwork from the unit on the roof all the way down to the mains to the VAV boxes. So each VAV box at the room has a damper in it, and then that damper downstream of that is all signed for a low pressure, so a lot lower velocity, so sound doesn't transfer as much, but you can get that high pressure coming in to the VV box, and that will cause some noise. So that's why we try to do what we can at the air handler to eliminate it.
This is a hard one to wrap my head around, because my concern would be, I don't think I'd want to cut it $23,000 if it's going to make the classrooms noisier than it should be. And I just don't have a good gauge. I mean, to me, having a low noise level in the classroom is worth that. I don't know, I'm not getting a sense of how much noisier it's going to be.
And it's a hard one to put a measurement on. There is one option that I don't know, and we have to price it up as a mechanic. There is an option that we have done in the past where sometimes you get these units and they end up being noisier than expected. You know, there is what they call duct lagging that they can wrap around the outside of the ductwork if it gets to be a noise factor. That it creates that mass that can help reduce that noise level.
So these are probably not great questions, but I'm gonna ask them anyway. So I'm thinking back to a couple of years ago when I was sitting in admin meetings and we were talking about positive and negative pressure in classrooms for the sake of spreading illness in a classroom. Would this affect that in any way, shape, or form? No, I'm saying.
No.
Okay, good.
No.
And how about, I know, again, I've seen presentations from builders at administrative conferences about the amount of carbon dioxide in a room. Does it affect that in any way, shape, or form to change the way we duct? Okay.
Not the duct line, so just a side note after carbon dioxide, we have, these systems are, on the control side of it, we have CO2 sensors in the return air ductwork.
Okay.
So that regulates our outside air. It doesn't do it room by room basis, it does it by global basis for what that air handler serves.
So like a zone.
So what's the ceiling height in the, like the
In the
classroom?
classrooms, I believe we have them at 9 feet, let me double check here, I don't want to misspeak here. The classrooms, I believe, are at 9.
This one's hard to kind of wrap your head around if it's a good idea or not.
And I wonder if there's any, and Joe kind of alluded to this, but I wonder if it matters if we end up going with a different type of unit on the roof. Because if those units on the roof are a little bit more noisy, does that automatically mean that's not something you even want to entertain, that, you know, like taking that deduct there?
It's,
So,
9 feet.
so just my recommendation, if we do go to the rooftops, I would recommend staying with that because we're gonna have more vibration noise.
Okay, that's good enough for me.
You have compressors running, so if you have a chance, go stand by a unit. I mean, you can go stand by the gym unit, and stand by the gym unit and see what that sounds, or not the gym unit, your current unit over that serves the wrestling area. That's about a very smaller version of what we have here.
The one that's just on the south side there.
yeah. The
Okay,
thing about sitting on the ground is all that noise is outside,
right,
and it's not
Correct.
attached to the building, so to
right,
speak,
correct.
like a rooftop
Yeah,
unit.
so to put words in your mouth, if M1 is yes, then M3 equals no.
That's my recommendation.
Okay, that's what I'm hearing, okay.
Okay,
Now, and then to side note that a little bit more, we have to check with the mechanical contractor on this. M1, so a lot of times when we have systems like, you know, current system I believe on the roof right now is just a standard roof curve, right? Just around there, it sits on this curve that sits, you know, 18 inches above the roof deck. We might want to look at if we need to go to a vibration isolation curve, which provides some additional isolation so it doesn't transfer that noise to the roof deck, to the roof structure.
Is that like an isolation pad you put on it? Does the curb stay that same height and you just put an insulation pad in it? Or a vibration pad?
The curb would stay the same height, it changes.
Typically it's probably the curve. And we have a detail, I don't know if it's on our, if it applies here, but we have a detail that we do put some sound matting in that curb. You know, just try to, because once you get that thing set, you know, that's what you have, so we try to provide some information, so we can add any kind of volume possible. Mass possible, so. Any other questions on that one, otherwise we'll move to the next one.
Okay,
The next one we don't have a lot of exhaust fans on this system, so we have, EC motors on these instead of your standard motors. That's an easy one to take. I mean, it's only $450 worth, but it does provide, you know, the EC motors help balance the system easier. But not a big deal either way, really. I mean, it's kind of a minor issue since we only have 6 fans.
okay.
And then the last one, I guess, is really the building management control system. So we went 3 options out there. Obviously, option 3 is to leave it as we have it. We were replacing all the master controllers, getting everything up to date. Obviously, a lot of the old stuff coming out with the old building and the old boiler. We got newer stuff in place, a little bit newer stuff in place with the science wing and the tech wing, but that would be, option 3 would be to change it all out and update it so you have one brand new system. And so then what they did, they broke it out. Like the option 1 is to just replace that master controller and leave the existing field controllers. My recommendation would be to go with that for the most cost savings, because this is something that easily you can do in the future. As long as we can work with CI3 and make sure you guys can see it and all your staff can see the controls and be able to control it. It's so that easily you can be updated as you move forward.
Okay, I'm not sure we all understand exactly what we're doing here. I'm just speaking up for everybody else, because that's really is, I'm not sure I understand these controllers.
So maybe Joe, you can just explain the building control system in general, just so people understand what we're talking about.
Yep. So CI3 is your control vendor out there, and they provide all the building management system controls. So at the new air handler, essentially, the new air handler, the new system will be on a system where your staff can log in and control, change set points. You know, classroom's too hot. You know, a classroom's too cold. You can look at it. They can diagnose stuff. They can, before they run out to the site and look at it. So you have that in place right now over your other building, your current high school. It's not supported as much. So what they're looking at doing is get the controls all updated so you have it all on the same platform. So you can log in and see everything on one page, and you'll be able to navigate through it, and maybe all the latest and greatest software and master controllers. Does that make any more sense?
The master controller, is that in the mechanical room or somewhere?
Correct.
Okay, so this isn't changing the controllers inside of classrooms?
It's adding more control,
not-
so it's not changing that, no.
We're adding more control and saving
Well,
$223?
it's helping relay back to the mothership of what's going on in those areas. That's what we would be adding, more vision into that, correct, Joe?
And we take $223,000 out?
Well, that's, I think, this first option, Joe, is taking that out,
Take it all
correct?
out, to not put it in.
Oh, to not put the mothership in? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so they said they replaced the net controller, master controller with a new EVO master. And then some of that stuff, you know, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff with controls, you know. And that leaves the existing field controls. So essentially they have a control panel they can still do the stuff in the field, they can tie into it, but it's not the latest and greatest. And, you know, we can get some more information from CI3, and they got Grant over there can explain a lot better than I can. It's just that we're not fully updated on the system. Where that was kind of based in the payments, so it's fully updated, you know, we don't have to worry about it, it's going forward, but some of the stuff can easily be stepstone in there, and I believe Grant may have even given the district some information in the past to start looking at some potential updates to the system before this project even got kicked around. I don't know that for sure, but I thought he was telling me that they were starting to look at some options, just so, because some of that stuff gets antiquated, and they can't get the parts, and they can't get the stuff, so it's something that needs to be thought of, but it can easily be done over time.
So basically, Joe, the first option is to add controls to the new part of the building, but we're not really touching any of the existing controls, correct?
They'd have a new master controller.
Okay, they have a new master controller, but other than that, we're not really going in and adding any more functionality to that control system in the existing building, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, I think I'm
That
starting to
might
get it.
simplify it a little
Functions the
bit
way it
more.
currently functions
It
in
was-
the existing
yes.
building.
So
But-
part of this project was gonna go change the controls and all the existing.
Update it all.
Oh,
Yeah,
Cause
okay,
there's,
science wing, tech wing.
Yes, correct.
Okay, now
They're
I'm
all
getting it.
different, they're all run differently, and they used to hub back to the 3-story building, right, Joe? And so we have to do
Correct,
something
yeah.
about that regardless, because we have to do and so the new addition would be that master now, correct, Joe?
That is correct. So
Okay.
controls are multi-layered, right? You have your computer where you can log into the software and see the equipment, right? And then that's tied into a master controller, control panel, and then there's controls on each piece of equipment, and then there's control valves that have electronic control that can open and shut. So we never were gonna change out the valves and all that kind of stuff. We were just gonna change out kind of the field controllers at each mechanical area, each air handler type thing. So, from what my understanding is, that you should be able to log into one platform still and access it all. It might be that's not quite as streamlined as it would be if we had it all updated and the latest and greatest.
Here's a crazy question, Joe. If we were to, let's say they take this alternate, they could, over time, update those controls back to the master, correct?
Easily,
Yeah.
very easily, yes. It's something that you can do it, you can probably do it section by section, you know?
Mm-hmm,
Assign
year by
one
year,
year,
okay.
you know, and that's how we typically see a lot of controls projects. If they're already electronic controls, which you are, old pneumatic controls are different, but electronic controls, you'll see, you know, the numbers get pretty large pretty fast, because it's just a lot of parts and pieces moving, that have controls on.
the old system that we're using right now for the very older part, like the auditorium, looks like like it was created in the 1900s. And it's basically where you'd hit like F12, F10, this and that. That's how you control it. And the only one in the district that understands that system is Marty. It's a very old system that tells you very little about
That's
it.
in the auditorium area, so are we looking to change anything in the auditorium area? I mean, what?
Well, with option 1, no, that would be eliminating any type of update. Right, Joe?
I believe that, we have to double check with CI3, but all that stuff feeds back to Marty's computer and obviously in the building that's coming down. I believe that stuff can all be integrated, and that's part of the cost. We'd have to double check with CI3, that stuff gets integrated into this new system. And so it's more streamlined, so it's just not, there might not be all the functionalities that you would typically have on the new system. You might have, you know, because whoever said that, it is, right, it's a very old system. I mean, it still works, but it's not like your, you know, graphics where you can go, new ones where you can go pull the graphic up and you can see the air handler, you can check the temperatures, you know, coming off the coil, and you can go pull a graph up. So what they'll end up doing in the long run, the controls you'll see is whoever's running the building, Marty can go pull this building up and you can see, okay, classroom B117, temperature in that classroom is, 72 degrees, or all of a sudden, it's 90 degrees. Let's go take a look at that, what's going on, and they'll send alarms, and they'll say, hey, we're beyond our parameters. So it helps people really make sure your building stays healthy and running correctly.
And Joe, like if a unit were to go down, for example, it would also alert that person on that system too, right? So like,
Correct. There's as long as it's set up right, there's a lot of alarms. You can put a lot of alarms on it. Some of the staff may be too many they want, but if it goes down, like hey, the chiller's off and the temperature gets beyond a certain temperature, well, we're not going to provide chiller capacity. They can send an alarm, and so you can really work with that stuff. And it helps, someone wants to do some scheduling. If Marty wants to do scheduling of the gym, he can change that without having to go to the site. He can dial in from remotely if he has access and change the temperature and operation of the unit.
So basically this,
It's kind of like,
go ahead.
it's kind of like, it's a lot more sophisticated system as you might have in your home, right? You might have a Google, a Nest thermostat or anything that's connected to the Wi-Fi where you can change your temperature, shut the system off, monitor it. It's just a very more sophisticated system, obviously.
Well, it's more than just an update in technology. It helps out with the maintenance part of it. Gives you more statistics on what's going on. You can see what's going on. You can change more stuff from the computer. You can diagnostic it a whole lot better. From that other system we have currently, you barely see any information at all.
so that 5 would be leaving everything in place as is in the existing, but the items would be connected back to the master that is being added by the addition. M6 would be replacing the master control at the science wing and the existing field controllers in that science wing, and then replacing the controllers with the wood shop master controller and adding a new master at the auditorium. So not doing a complete overhaul of the whole building management control system with item 6. It would be just replacing and addressing those specific items, as they might need more attention, might need it more than other spaces within your building. And then item number 7 is just keeping it as base bid. That was just to show you kind of those 3 different options there.
Got it. This is where someone's gonna have to really lay out the options for me, because I'm just not getting this one.
Well, and I think we probably would have to, realistically, myself included, would have to get a little more, and I can get with Marty, or not Marty, but with Grant and CI3, and really understand the whole system. What are we not getting? What are we not getting if we go with M6? What are we not getting if we go M5?
I guess.
And how easy can it be? How easy can it be upgraded in the future?
That's probably my biggest question, I guess, is if you decide not to accept, let's say you decide to go with M5. To me, I guess just from my understanding of, I'm not Joe, I don't know as much as Joe, obviously, but it seems like something you might be able to easily add later over a summer.
It sounds like, Joe, what you're saying is it's like the difference between a smartphone and those old Nokia phones that didn't break if you dropped them off of a roof. So like, it's gonna work, it's gonna do the
I would go
job,
back to a
but you don't have
bag
the features.
It's a bag phone.
Yeah.
Because
Like,
like
you
he
can still
said,
make
his,
a call.
Good example.
No.
you've got, or a wall phone, he's almost to a wall phone with what he's got,
Okay.
and you're going to a smartphone. You're gonna run this system from an iPad somewhere,
Yeah.
he can dial into it.
Not on site.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
And it's kind of like we have a different system at Lakeview, but it's laid out the same. Like where we could, like with the gym that's in there, I could shut that down on the weekends, so we're saving energy costs. I can turn it on and off from my phone if I really wanted to. Like for band concerts, anytime we have the band there, we always have it shut off. But with this older bag phone, if you want to call it, you can't do anything like that. You'd have to literally just go in there manually into the computer, at one computer in the whole school, and shut it off.
So if M6, replacing those controllers, would that kind of bridge the gap a little bit? Where you're replacing their controllers for the auditorium and wood shop, or is it?
You're replacing some controllers, but not all of them, from my understanding, right, Joe, in that option M6?
That's how I'm reading what the verbiage that was provided here in the
Yeah.
item description. Like I said, I really think, I mean, before we you want to make a decision on it, we could have the pros and cons, talk to CI3 and have the pros and cons listed for them,
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely think that, and then Darren and Marty and get their input on it.
Because I'm currently in talks with CI3 about transitioning Lakeview over to CI3. So the potential would be to, eventually, when this is all done, I have one system where I can go to every single school and look at every single area.
And I think that's the end game, is one system.
And
Which you can still get,
Right,
you're just not gonna get it all at once at
Right.
this school.
if
You're
you
gonna
decide to take those options, yeah, yep.
Yeah, see, the back of my mind is running, what's going through my mind right now is what the total dollars are gonna be. And we've got a hearing on the 15th, the bond for $2 million. Okay, so where would that money come from? Part of the money to pay that bond off is gonna come by a reduction in our saved dollars allocation towards facilities projects. Probably take it from $600,000 to $400,000 a year. So we're gonna reduce our ability to do summer projects by $200,000 a year for quite a while. If we cannot bond that money, then now, and we don't have to do that, now there's the money to add some of these things a little bit over time on our long-term facilities plan. And that's where I'm going, is how do we balance, because some of this stuff, I think, going into the future, we do need to be on one system. I didn't realize this project at first was to replace all the controls in the rest of the building. I think it's the right direction to go eventually. I don't know if we can do it right now. And if we could break it up into phases where it makes sense to do it, a little bit each year, because there's gotta be utility savings in it someplace. Maybe not 100% payback, but there's gotta be a payback on updating the controls. I get that.
Absolutely.
I mean, I used to work in industry, and I'll tell you, we spent $2.5 million to go from AC to DC motors, put new drive controllers in. And we paid back in 5 years in utility costs and took 55 million kilowatt hours a year out of the system. So I get it.
Yep.
Just can we afford to do it right now?
Right.
Yep. And you're good, I'm all for doing it, whether you do it all now or not. You also have to consider labor hours and things like that, wear and tear on a vehicle just driving around town to go check, whereas he can sit in an office or somebody calls, he's at a problem at another school and somebody calls him, he logs in and corrects the problem.
And it's more than just that. I'm not just trying to save myself, make my job easier. It's to the point where especially like with the system down at Lakeview, we've given access to those controls to mechanical techs before. They can get in there. Of course, they understand all the numbers a lot better than any of us do, so they can access that stuff a lot better. I mean, they can do it remotely, like I've called Woodman, and they're in Des Moines, and they can look at their system from there, look at our system and tell me what's wrong.
No, I think it's the right thing to do eventually. Can we do it now is the question. Or do we phase it in a little bit at a time? So is power gonna be all on CI3, because I know they're down there, so that building's gonna be complete. How much of Lakeview is on CI3 right now?
Nothing. I've had them down, they've looked at our entire system. What they're trying to do is trying to save costs, use the current equipment like thermostats and everything like that, but just backfeed it into their system to use their system. Because we have no contract with Woodman right now. And it's impossible to even get any of them on the phone to even look at it. So that was the plan. And they're supposed to be putting together a quote for me.
Okay. And so right now we would have all power on CI3, we'd have half of the high school. So we'd have to do half the high school and Lakeview and then preschool. Can't leave that wrong. Okay.
have to get to another engagement, is there anything that any of you can think of for us before I
No,
leave? And
I'm finally understanding this one, so I appreciate
I
it.
would, before I leave, our recommendation is you take all the deducts and you move forward as soon as possible.
Okay,
You know,
let's talk real quickly about the, because if you gotta go, we appreciate your time in here, I know you got travel. We've got to do this by the 20th, right,
That,
Lisa?
that would be the 30 days.
Okay, that's the 30 days. When do you need to know from us, yes or no, we can't do it in this meeting, so that you can get everything wrapped up so we can get,
it will have to be a change order.
Yeah, but we would do that, so you would need to make sure you guys feel comfortable accepting the contract as it's written right now, as it bid out, and then post approval of the cost, which would be that, at that higher number, then we would start issuing change orders to deduct out.
okay, that's what we talked about.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
We would have, because of the way it was publicly,
Right.
we would have to get a contract for the amount that we bid.
Yes,
And then we start getting change orders.
correct.
for the
Correct,
thing.
correct. And during this process too, if there's something that comes up that we also think could be a deduct as we're working through submittals and stuff like that, I just see us continuing to have that lens as we're moving through, so, but, yeah. And I can stay and we can talk
Because some of
about
these things sounds like we still need some information, so.
it looks like we need a little bit of information from the control side, and it looks like probably we need some more information on
The display
The
cases, if we're
display
taking
cases,
brick out,
yep,
the
and
sound
then-
system, does it remove the conduits and boxes?
right.
And MC cable
Yep.
only above ceiling
Yep.
or in the wall,
Yep.
are the three answers that I need to get you.
Yep.
And I'll be making those calls when I leave, so.
Yep.
Okay. Got it. All right. So if you guys take off, we appreciate it. I think we're gonna still talk about this for a little while, so.
Okay. I got a few business cards here, if anybody has any questions, or.
I would definitely like one, please.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thanks, guys.
Glad to be here, I'm sorry we can't stay.
No, you told us that you had to be done by 2, so we appreciate it.
All right.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you again. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
Appreciate it. You bet. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
There's
Rochelle, you got any questions?
Yeah.
Give me a call. We'll be on the road for a while, so.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm not-
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate you guys coming out here today. Thanks so much today. Appreciate it.
Would you like one, Chris?
Okay. So,
Do you guys have any more questions for me?
That was a lot of questions.
Well, if we do, Joe, I will write them down and I can give them to you. I know you're also have another meeting to go to, so, thank you, Joe. I will,
I'll look at it. Sounds good. I'll look at those items and we'll get back in touch.
All right.
Thank you guys.
have a good day. Thanks, Joe. Bye.
You know, I will go back, my previous life in retail, with these controls, I mean, probably what they have now is probably antiquated, but even then was, 25 miles away, and I get an alarm on my phone, I get it right then and there, so it's, but I'm with you.
To me, it's a very big deal. To you guys, the ones making the decisions, it's up to you. I understand the cost savings and everything like that, but
Okay.
It's a big one. Big item.
so, maybe one final item to talk through here is it's going to affect the total value engineering. I did throw a value engineering number in here, just as like the target that we were shooting for, which is minimum, right? We obviously have some options, but we were looking for $1 million, and I just, for now, I threw that in there.
Okay.
So, obviously that takes it down to 17.4. So 17.4 there. So as we go down the list, we have that equipment by owner, so that would be building, furniture, and programming. Not sure what number you guys ended up wanting to stick with there, but I kept it as the original estimate that we sent you, okay? The technology allowance, I kept it the original, I didn't know what you finalized on that one, but I kept it there just for now. Abatement, I kept the same as well. I have updated building review fees from the previous one that you saw. This might be, here's the, do you guys want a copy of the, prior to bid numbers that we provided you?
Sure.
Maybe that's easy, so you guys can kind of get a comparison here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, updated also the printing cost, significantly lower, so that's good news. Yep. So yeah, so updated the building review fees, and actually, that's still an estimated, but I lowered it because I knew it wasn't gonna be that much, but I think I finally got the invoice from them, so I think it's sitting around 5, so that's good, so that will drop even further. The soil investigation report, that was, is the same, we don't have a lifestyle cost required, the topography is the same. So let's go look at professional design fees. So what I did is, instead of using the number of the construction total, which would be the 17.4, if we get that number down, we used our design fee cost that we proposed, or that we had on that previous submittal to you guys, so the 15.5. That's where we're gonna hold our design fee at the 15.5 for this, for now. If we have any major changes, we'll just need to probably talk about that as we go. But that's the 15.5, so that's even lower than what your construction estimate's gonna come back even with value engineering. So you can kind of see the difference there. If we would have kept it at the 18.4, which I'm not saying that we would have, but it would have been at 1,323,000. So we dropped that down to 1,119,000. Okay? So there's that number. The reimbursable expenses, I did not touch that yet. That's still estimated. That's like that would be like my travel down here. Not food, it would be like my car travel and some printing costs during, like minor printing costs during construction. And then the printing of documents, like I said, we just got that. That was originally 25,000 that I had estimated, so that came in really good pricing. I was happy with that. And then we have some testing during construction that's gonna be at 60,000. So we'll have, we have a quote from Team Services who did your geotechnical report. And that is around 60,000, and that's testing during construction. Building commissioning, we will reach out to different contractors for building commissioning. We'll be required to do mechanical commissioning on this project. And then builder's risk, that's an estimate. Lisa will have that final number once you guys actually apply for builder's risk, once this project moves forward. So that gives you an estimate or an update there on those soft costs. Okay? So if you take that kind of gives you, if we were to take $1 million, again, we don't know what our VE number is gonna be. We don't know what you guys are gonna end up going with on that, but that just kind of gives you an idea of where that sits. And that might help you guys also figure out and moving forward with what you need to move forward with.
Can you go into my shared document and see that? Yes. School debt. School debt. This is what I printed out and gave to everybody. I added some things on there. Yeah, okay, go down to the middle tab. Go down the bottom. Keep going. All the way down. D flat. Oh, there you go. Okay. So what I have in here is because we put in for each of their categories. Then we put that in, and put the rest on cost. Original bid, district and soft costs, that gets into the, then there's our cash, so there's the bottom line, that's that 16.8 that we need to come up with. I'm gonna have Lisa double check my math. So. She's not there. Okay, is that mine?
This one's yours.
Go to the school edition tab, go way down the bottom. Okay. So what I'm coming up, I just added this down at the bottom to give all the categories they have, that whatever that line is. That is line 89, that's the deficit,
Yeah.
1.6 that we need to come up with, not bond. That's the math I want to double check. All right. Here's what I'm doing, is the printout that I gave everybody last time, is I've shared that with them. And what it looks like is to not bond, we need $1.6 million on top of the professional, because I already counted the professional fees in it, thank you very much. So what we would need to come up with is $1,648,000. Otherwise, we're gonna have to do some additional bonding. That's the goal. So the question is, does the board want to bond more, or do we want to take 1.6 million they got?
Well, I think we can. There's a couple of things that's not on this table here.
Okay.
And one is, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's no security system installed. There's no camera system installed there. Right?
Not as part of our project,
Right,
no,
not
and I didn't,
part of it.
yep.
So, I can only assume that we don't want that.
Yeah.
So that's an added cost, and I don't know what that cost would be.
And I believe the rough-ins are there, and
Yes.
that was figured, some of that was figured into the technology cost. So one thing that we have that will come our way, but as I understand it from the state, is it'll take some time, is the governor's safety initiative. It's gonna give us some amount of money for cameras and security items. But it's not gonna be like tomorrow, like it's gonna be a couple years out before we get that money and know even what that amount will be for us. They keep throwing around this number of 50,000 per building, but I've heard recently the words up to added, which might mean like a big building gets 50,000.
Words matter.
And it includes things like the radios that they're putting in and the value of the threat assessment that Department of Homeland Security will do and all those things. So I don't really know how much of that 50,000 will truly be available to us to use for the things that we want to use it for. We won't know until we get there.
Okay, well, we'll have to mention it.
I personally think that we should take a good long look at this.
Yep.
You know, I think we need to, there's some things I think could come out, but I still think there's always things that are gonna come up.
Yeah, and there's
So that $2 million bonding thing is probably a pretty, it's a little bit of a safety cushion in my mind. I have never been on a building project that didn't go higher
there's
somehow.
a $250,000 contingency.
Yeah.
That can get eaten up pretty quick.
Real fast in a project of this size. So I think we need to attack it from both ends.
Okay.
See if we can borrow some more money and see if we can't start saving some money.
And the good news is that bonding that we have available to us is something that doesn't raise property taxes. And I think that's important for us to know for our public. I mean, save its sales tax money that we would eventually be getting. It's just giving it to us a little bit earlier that way.
And I appreciate your comments about the $600,000 maintenance budget, but the fact is, with a 9% inflation rate this year, that's $600,000. We just lost over $50,000 worth of buying power. And we'll continue to lose buying power as time goes on. So to think we're gonna cut that back to 400,000 is foolhardy in my mind.
Two comments on that. First, Matt Gillespie's sheet shows an increase every year in that budget, in his projections. That's the first thing. The second thing is we haven't been spending all $600,000 lately.
Right.
And so while I will concede the point of inflationary buying power, that's obvious. But by putting in everything that we've done in Lakeview, shutting down the Central, shutting down the 1970 building, our costs should go down. I mean, that's one of the things we went to the public for and asked for $12 million for property tax, is we're going to see some energy efficiencies, we're gonna see some maintenance costs. So that we do have to either say, we're gonna see some savings there, otherwise we went out there and sold a
Screwed up.
bill of goods.
I agree. I don't think Aaron has had enough time to get a real good handle on what we need.
Okay.
I pulled out the red book the other day. I don't know whether you guys have ever seen the red book.
From 2013,
14. That outlined all of the building improvements that were needed at that time. And
and most of that was high school.
most of it was high school.
It still is.
But if you haven't seen the red book, it might be worth your time to at least look. To see, at least to get a little historical perspective as to where we were and maybe where we're at now.
The bottom line is that was the cost then, and I think it even came back through this project, the cost to bring the 1917 building up to standards for remodeling, put in air conditioning, put in fire suppression, put all that stuff in, was it would cost more than the addition project.
Right, and take 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, and that was pre-COVID, pre-inflation, pre any of that stuff.
Yeah.
It was more expensive to remodel than it was to build them.
And we're still gonna wind up with a building that we were only gonna use about 60% of it.
Okay.
So that, it did not make sense in any way for me.
Okay.
This was a good presentation. I think we got some good ideas.
Now, we don't have a lot of time to act, because we still have a contract that we have to accept or reject. A bid that we have to accept
Yes,
or reject.
correct.
Okay. So if we accept a bid that is over, without having a sense of what our change orders are, what we're saying is, we're accepting a bid for $2 million more than what we can afford. Okay? So we could say, great, we're gonna bond for more, but we haven't actually sold the bonds, we don't actually have that money yet. That makes Lisa, from a regulatory legal standpoint, just a little bit nervous. And I understand that, because at a certain point, we still have to come up with that money. And we have not actually done everything that we need to do, we haven't gone through the bond selling process yet to actually secure the funds. So that actually does put the district at a little bit of a risk to do that. The other option to do that is say, we have a list of change orders that we know we're gonna do. And I would feel more comfortable, and I'm curious what Mark and Lisa say, is I would feel more comfortable if we had a change order list that we know we're gonna accept and we know that we're gonna be there.
Yeah, I agree. We need to get that list done.
Okay, so, I would, since we can't take board action, I wanna run through this, and I just want a quick, we're not voting, just a, yeah, I agree, no, I don't agree, because that's not a yes, no, how's that?
Will these other two guys have?
No, yeah, they're gonna,
access to
yeah, this is not a decision
They'll
today.
have access to what we.
Oh, yeah,
this and
yeah.
Yeah, I will send out PDFs
Yeah. Yeah, they're gonna have to get spun up, so.
and you guys can forward it on.
I'm not gonna hit every one of these, because they're, some are lower dollar value, I'm just gonna get some of the big ones, okay? I'm gonna say, and I'm just gonna yell the number out, look on your sheet, I just wanna hear a yes or no, by consent, okay? A1,
Yes.
Yes.
okay? A3. Or do you want me to do every one of them?
Yeah,
All right, A2,
I would keep that.
Like, as in keep it as a value engineer, or keep it as, don't just
I
reject
want to
it?
keep the window.
Okay, so
Okay.
reject.
I answered all these, but I answered them looking at it differently than the way you're looking at it.
so I'm opposite.
It's accept or reject.
Right, I need to look at it that way. I was yes, no, yes, no, but.
Yep, see, it says accept or reject was the column. So basically, you're saying yes to accept.
So when it says accept, I say no.
Okay.
You're gonna,
Or-
re-
I was
Then you're gonna say reject.
you're
Yeah.
gonna
I was
reject.
backwards from.
And you could do some as maybe, that we get more information to come at Monday's work
All right,
session.
so nice. This is an accept, yes, no, maybe. A1, accept.
Accept,
Yes, accept, sorry.
A2.
reject.
Mine's a maybe.
Accept.
All right, so this is a maybe. A2 is a maybe. I'm kind of a maybe on it also. A3,
Maybe.
Mine's a maybe too.
Mine's a question mark, so.
It's maybe.
okay. A4,
Accept.
Accept.
I would reject that. It's gonna be a dark hole.
that's eliminate the bleachers.
Just to eliminate.
Did I just, excuse me,
A4.
A4, excuse me, I accept.
I gotta use my paper. Cause I just did the same thing.
I'm losing track.
There.
I'll get down here.
I'm sorry, I did the
Okay.
same thing.
A5,
I'd say reject.
Yeah, you're gonna need that for something.
the curtain.
Can I give an opinion on that curtain?
Yeah, absolutely.
We had that curtain, we have one down at Lakeview. The main purpose wasn't to have two gym classes at once. We used it once.
Yeah.
Once.
Accept.
The middle school has
We
one.
literally used it
I
once.
don't, middle school's probably the same.
Half the gym teachers there don't even know how to.
Does it do anything?
That's
Okay,
how
That's
little-
good
That's how little we
this
did
is
it.
good. This is good.
Yeah, we're accepted.
Jim Carter.
A5. So let's do A5 again.
Accept.
Okay.
Accept.
A6.
I would reject that. I think we're gonna have some noise problems.
Somebody else think?
I don't,
If we're closing it off,
I say accept.
I say accept and we know that we can put them in later.
I don't think we have any at Lakeview.
None of the gyms we have them.
Yeah, but the acoustics in Lakeview is not the best.
It's horrible.
But that's also has a PA system, we won't have one in here,
That's
so.
your big flush.
So this is a maybe. Okay. A7,
Reject that.
Reject.
Thank you.
yep, yeah. 8,
I'm gonna accept that.
Accept.
Accept.
9,
Accept.
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 10,
I'm gonna reject that.
Reject.
I'm kind of with you on that one, so. 11,
I'm gonna reject that.
I do.
I think the maintenance on that one is.
It's, yeah,
12,
I'm going to reject that. You can't have too much storage in a classroom because that whole building doesn't have any storage in it.
yep. So 13,
Reject.
that's in Parker's office, he can get some bricks off the old buildings.
You know, it's really the amount of stuff Rich has to store.
Yeah.
I mean, there is all the awards, there's lives, I mean,
I'm kidding.
I'm just saying that, you know, you think of that, what kind of stuff, but Rich really does have a lot of stuff that he has to keep
Say
track of.
in college, I don't know how everybody else lives in college, but in college, my shelves for books, what we call bricks and boards. I don't know if they still do that.
We use milk.
Like with the cement block.
Milk crates and boards?
Yep.
Yep, I had some milk crates and boards, we had bricks and boards. Yeah, cement blocks and some boards.
See, and now you wouldn't, you have books, so you wouldn't need them.
Well, and actually we had some milk crates too, which is actually, we converted to that, we upgraded to that. It gives them more storage for books. Okay,
Was 13,
14.
was 13 a reject?
Accept.
Okay, I'm just gonna keep going unless I hear other opinions, and don't let Mike vote for you, so.
No.
15.
I say accept.
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 Yeah. I'd love to have it architecturally, artistically, but you knew that one was coming out.
Did you guys accept 14?
Yes.
Yes.
And wait a minute.
I thought you guys had.
No.
14 is.
No, that, we don't need to be doing
We don't want-
14.
yeah,
That's
we-
what I thought.
Yep, thanks.
I'm not rejecting.
I thought that's
16?
What about 15?
16.
We already did 15, yeah.
You know, I kept thinking about that later. where is the kid gonna put his clothes? I mean,
There are 92 lockers in each locker room right now.
92, I mean, but are they like under lock and key? Is that their own
But that's
personal?
just for like gym class.
Is that their own personal locker?
Well,
They share them?
I guess
throughout the
they
day?
would, no,
No, that's
no.
just-
That's just in the locker room for PE.
Yeah, we're not eliminating any student,
These are PE
Every
locker
day is
room
locked.
lockers.
That's what I'm talking about. When, do they have their own personal locker for
Do they use
PE
them?
or do they
No.
share them?
No,
Can I-
it's just for the class.
They
Go ahead.
go, so. how many-
Currently, the way they're used in our lockers, our facilities are not very good. But if you go to the locker room anytime during the day, you're gonna see stuff thrown on the bench. Kids come in, they change their clothes, they leave everything out. They're not gonna, I mean, if we have lockers, they may open up and hang their stuff in them.
We're talking about putting some hooks up.
Yeah, there's no sense of security, stuff's not locked up.
30-some boy lockers, 30-some girl
Yeah,
lockers.
so-
I doubt you're gonna have more than 60 kids in gym.
No,
class.
that will handle.
So that's plenty.
And nobody's gonna have a, like, I'm gonna keep my PE clothes in here all
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
So it's just
Oh,
basically
you
for
want
class
the
use.
permanent PE locker
Right.
throughout the year? No,
No,
it's not.
it's just
only
for
that class.
So we have plenty with 32 in each
Yeah.
one?
Yep.
Okay, we're
so
good.
we're
Yep, that's, we talked about that one last week, yep, I get
Except
it.
A16, right?
Yep, except.
So 17 didn't have a dollar on it.
right,
and
there'll be
eight-
an ad.
And 18 that's just a there.
Yeah, that was just a.
All right.
yeah.
Here we go, 19.
No one wants to say anything on that one.
I think this one bears just at least a couple of phone calls to see that. Now, the problem is, they didn't, and maybe we didn't discuss that, was, I know there's some asbestos abatement in there, guys. And I don't know what, I mean, that could be a big part of that budget.
Say that again?
Asbestos abatement,
That's not in the bid.
Correct. That's this separate line item.
That's in here.
Under
Asbestos
supplemental.
abatement has always been a different cost.
it's always been a different cost.
Yep,
I don't think a phone call or two would hurt.
no, but I mean, we're gonna have to,
I still think we're probably better off to try and do this at a different time.
here's the issue, we're gonna have to come up with that money somehow in 2 years.
I understand.
Yeah,
Maybe
as long
not.
as,
Go ahead, what?
I'm just saying, you don't have it now without bonding, so you do it later,
you're still not gonna have
you're
it.
still,
Where's the money
where's
gonna come
that
from
money
later?
gonna come from?
Yeah, we really need to, even though we're gonna eliminate some things, some of the things that we think we're gonna put back in later, we gotta have that number somewhere out there 3 or 4 or 5 years from now.
Rochelle.
Do you want a separate column
Yeah, I'm gonna create a separate column
that
for
maybe
defer.
says like, defer or something like that?
How
And I'm not
much
saying
of this would be considered as part of the nature of this project? When we talked about our other conversations around bids, et cetera.
With the demolition, you're still building a building. You're still providing a new space for students. You're still doing all that. It's not like this may not happen, it just may not happen on this project. And you're still
So you're
gonna
not
bid it
worried
out,
about that?
and you're still gonna bid it out.
Yep, this is a
Okay, good.
defer until later, and we're gonna have to come up with the
Right.
money. So this is not a true cost reduction, this is
Right.
a cost deferment.
And there's gonna be a little bit of a trick to get that old building down and leave the other one standing and come up with something that looks right. If it's in the bid, they gotta do it. We don't have to figure it out later.
Well, I already have the drawings
Yeah.
done, because we did it as
Okay.
part of this
Yeah.
project.
So, hold it,
Right.
let me ask this question.
Yeah.
Part of their bid is after the building is demo is to make it look all nice again.
Mhm.
So if it's demoed, do they have to come back in and do that? And what is the potential risk of, well, they didn't demo it right, we didn't have control of that?
I would say what you would do in this particular scenario, and I have a note on here to double check to make sure they included some of the items that we added on after it's demoed, right? Like the new exterior finish and some exterior stairs. I would say that you would have that be a completely separate project, and whoever is demoing the building, it may be a general running it, would need to mask that building back up. I don't think the demo could just be completely separate and then you have Bi-State come back and do
Yeah.
that. I think it has to be one project,
Right,
just because it is a little complex. I don't think you're gonna just be able to
You
have.
gotta close the hole.
I think we need to keep it in there and keep on the hook. Does that make sense?
Unless you're able to find, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're,
Unless you're able to find, unless someone has more availability in the next year than they do right now, right? Here's the thing, what I've been told by a couple, like both of the people who bid, was that was a challenge to find someone who would bid it and was available, right? Because they're looking at their availability now and thinking, oh, I'm crazy, right? And even though maybe in 2 years they may not be. Or they only had 2 bidders, are you gonna maybe get more bidders in the future if you were to rebid it? That would be the only way to think about that. Yeah, but we can't
Could there
predict
be
that
some
either.
future change order that would be cheaper if they were able to go back to their people, their subcontractors and
I
say,
don't think
what if
that's
you did it
allowed.
later? Oh, it's
That,
not.
well, that would just be, I don't know if
That
they
would
would
be
actually.
probably,
do
okay.
that.
Why wouldn't that be allowed?
Well, it may be, I don't know if they could do that, I'd have to ask by state, I think that would get very complicated and.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not gonna give you any money.
Right.
They're under no obligation to give you
Right,
money back,
correct.
just because they got it cheaper.
Yes,
I'm kind of thinking we need to leave that in there, because that's a real complicated, twisted issue.
It goes back to our conversation earlier today we had with that gentleman that had looked at the existing older roofs. And he said sometimes if you can't hold a person to something before they're done with the job, you can't go back and get, you know, like, oh, well, we didn't tear that down, we're not responsible for buttoning everything up on the back end.
I mean, you would still wanna bid again, you would just, instead of it being phased like I have it, and being in one bid, you would end up taking that whole area out of the project and rebidding it as an entire project within itself, so like the north parking lot,
Yeah.
the demo, that would all be in a different like phase. That would be part of this bid, that would be in a different bid, basically, that's how if you were
We're
to
still
do
gonna have to
it,
pay for it, yeah.
I would recommend doing that, you just might end up having more availability available in 2 years than you do people see themselves having right now. That's the only benefit you would see of doing that.
And the thing is, whoever he got to bid on it, they may not be available, but it's his responsibility to go find somebody.
Right.
It's not ours. Let's.
We need to think about it, everybody, we're not decided today, everybody
No,
needs to think about
I
it.
would be tempted to leave it in there until we
Yeah.
see if we
Okay.
really need it.
A20, I'm not sure we can do that.
Right.
Not the way we bid our utilities out. Derek, you understand that what we did?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Food service, number 1.
As long as we roughed everything in, I'm okay with it right now.
Accept.
What, yeah, I think it's a nice, big, juicy one,
We got, yeah.
and if we could, if we talk to OPA, and all we gotta do is put in a cooler and a few warming tables, that's gotta be a whole lot
I'm
less.
saying that's probably a $450,000 or what I'm planning on that.
That's what I was gonna say is,
Yeah,
shoot a little bit high, knowing probably not gonna be at full 5-7.
I mean, we're probably gonna have to spend $50,000-$60,000 out of that, so.
Right.
yeah. But-
Yeah, and I don't know how much that stuff we can bring over from the high school as far as stainless steel tables, and that stuff doesn't cost a lot, it does add up, but there's not a lot of stuff in that kitchen to bring over.
The only thing will be the dishwasher area is the one thing, like, you can move those, we've seen.
I got
people move them.
dishwashers.
I got this.
So I know those can be moved around, but that would be the only thing we might wanna look into is if you wanted to keep that dish room area intact, we could see what the cost would be for that
Yeah.
as part of the project.
Okay.
I can ask him about that.
All right. I'm not sure we're really gonna get Indian Hills and landscaping into it, but it was kind of a fun thought. All right, so parking, what's the gut feeling on parking?
Well, I think it goes with, let them tear down the building. Let them build the parking lot.
I think in that parking lot.
Well, the new parking lot, the west will be gravel, not pavement. Pave it later.
Yeah, now, I might take that, I might accept that 100,000.
That's what I'm thinking, is I'd take that one. I think the north parking lot, I would keep in, and I would, and gravel it, but I would west parking lot, we can pave that later. We know how to pave, and I think that's a summer maintenance project.
Seating? I don't know.
You know, to me, that's lemon seeded. I don't think we're really gonna get anything else to do it.
I mean, the other thing to think about too on that seeding number is that they have to water it, they have to weed it, they have to maintain it until it actually like.
Till it grows.
It's staying there.
It's a little better than my little lawn cedar thing that I
Oh, yeah.
To me, that's, and I'm gonna go back to, and Chris will know this, I don't know if you'll remember, these two guys will. That goes back to putting up the handicap parking signs at Lakeview. There's only 4 of us that get that one.
I've heard the story.
What's that?
I've heard the story.
All right, electrical, E1. I think that's, Brad, you're gonna ask us to keep those in there?
Yes. Flexibility for the teachers, I think, is kind of
Yep.
important.
E2,
Except
I say accept.
with them still running in.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
verify,
running all the
we'll
conduit,
verify
yeah.
that number, yep,
Yep.
we'll double check that number and make sure.
E3,
Reject.
If we're gonna do the parking lot, we need lights.
I'm thinking that's a safety security issue.
Yeah, I would, if you're not limiting the parking lot, I would recommend keeping the lights,
I-
yes.
The lights, yeah.
Yep, I think that's. All right, does everybody understand the copper versus aluminum issue?
Yeah,
I know you probably do.
I don't really have any problem with it.
Okay,
It's, the only problem with it, the problem with aluminum is that aluminum expands and contracts with heat. And that's when you get a loose connection, and that's what causes arcing. And they also put a coating on it so it doesn't oxidize. But in those big connections, that's really not an issue.
it's a controversial issue because it does increase, that the heat does increase a possible electrical event, negative electrical event.
It's, I mean, you don't ever hear of anybody's house burning down because they used aluminum wire. Now, you did back in the 70s when they used aluminum wire to go to that outlet, but you don't hear that in a big cable. So, I mean, I would say accept that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask my guy before I say accept, but I kinda see where that was going. I get it.
And they're gonna check on that MC cable, right?
Correct, yes, just
So we don't
the
know
full
about that.
extent, so I'd say maybe on that one if you're considering
Yeah.
it.
And then,
And then, the E78, those are,
that's
kinda
accept,
go together.
yeah.
I accept those.
Okay. I'll kind of put a number together over the weekend on this, one. I'm not gonna keep you guys on to do that.
You know, I would accept all of that.
I was just gonna say, do we want to just say yes on all of those, because it's just, that's a spec list, basically, a vendor spec
And
list.
those are all,
Rochelle, on P5,
Yeah,
do you know exactly what those are? Are those the shower heads or?
so that's the valve into the
The
shower,
valve.
for the
Okay.
shower head, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
As long as the fire marshal's okay, because that's where the big one is.
That's probably the biggest question, so we'll verify and then let you know.
yeah.
But otherwise, it sounds like any other ones you would accept,
Yeah.
so, okay.
Okay. M1.
I would say maybe, you know, I was gonna jot some numbers. You know, if we reject M1 that gets due in 2 and in 3, still around a $48,000 savings. Because with the rooftop units, you are gonna have that noise, so maybe.
But I didn't get a sense that that was always in classrooms though.
The only area that it would be close to classrooms for that would be that one over on the wing,
It's in the,
by the
in
classroom wing, yes.
the wide
it's-
side of the triangle hallway.
Yeah,
right?
it's actually north of that, over the locker room area. So that little locker bay area that we have right there, it's right over that.
I would say it would probably cause a little bit of a maintenance issue to have it on the roof. Something we could adapt to, but it'd be a lot easier to get things if they're on the ground than if
Yeah.
They're on,
So like everything, there's pluses and minuses.
yes.
Anybody remember Dale Watley?
Yep.
Anybody else? Dale Watley, he came down 30 years ago, whatever, and bought Night Rifle and turned it in and then eventually sold it. So Dale's since passed away. I have a lot of Dale-isms. So here's a Dale-ism. He's a smart guy, tough negotiator. Bought and sold a lot of companies, serial entrepreneur type things. He used to say that when you're making when consumers are making a decision, a purchasing decision, there are three major components that affect your purchasing decision, and those are cost, quality, and features. And the thing about that is, you only get to have 2 out of 3. You got to give up on something. Here's my analogy, and I use this in the store all the time. The analogy is groceries. Okay, are there some things that you go into the grocery store and buy brand name, and you'll always get a brand name, no matter what it costs?
Absolutely.
Right? Coffee, something like that, maybe something you really like, right? Are there some things that you'll go in and get the generic lowest cheap because you just don't care?
Yep.
Okay, you're making a cost, quality, feature decision. And whether you realize it or not, you're making that decision every time you buy something. Now, you can take those categories that says, well, I look at this and this, you know, it all comes down to cost, quality, features. You know, color's a feature. You know, da-da-da-da. So those are the 3 main categories. And if you start thinking about when you go shopping, you'll see how true that is. This is a cost, quality. Everything we're doing is a cost, quality, and feature. So on this one, we have to make a cost, quality, feature decision. What I tell people when they're buying a high-ticket item is it's like a 3-legged stool. You can't have the most features and the highest qualities and yet have it at the same lowest cost as something else, right? That stool is going to be wobbly. What you have to really decide on the cost, quality, and feature, and I have done this with my kids over years, and there have been times when I went to make a purchase decision, they threw back when I couldn't make a decision, my youngest daughter was like, Dad, cost, quality, features, which one are you giving up on? Right? So this is a cost, quality, feature decision. Is you need a 3-legged stool. They all have to match. The cost, quality, features have to be in sync for what you're paying for. You want a short stool, do you want a tall stool? Right? The tall stool is put it on the ground, right? The short stool, lower cost, is to put it on the roof. So when you go through and you make the decision on this one, and I see your point on it, and I'm a little concerned about the noise and everything else, and I don't know where I'm going to fall out on this one yet. Part of me says it's tougher to maintain up on the roof, but if one of those rooftop units goes down, you don't lose it in the entire building. So the feature of doing the rooftop units is I still have air conditioning 80% of the building, not 0%. What I have to pay for that is I have to get a ladder out once a year and climb up on and work on it.
What's our maintenance schedule? Do we do like on our, do we do like a quarterly?
Twice a year.
And do you guys do that? It's not a,
It's something, well, like down at Lakeview, we have to have a service contract with Cunningham, and they come down twice. They do a lot of the more in-depth stuff. I mean, they look at literally everything that's in there, flame guard sensors and the boilers and everything like that. And they give us, well, can this last longer? Can this last another year? Can it last 6 months? What? And they help us out with those decisions. But the majority of the actual preventive maintenance that is done twice a year will be done by a contractor, by Cunningham, but, yeah.
Yep. So that's just my little, and this is probably, that applies to all of them, I'm just using, so I'm not picking on that one.
No,
It just applies to all of these.
Well, the concern I asked before, I don't know if I got the answer I was looking for, was the controls. Like down at Lakeview, they have controls where you can shut the whole system off to that air handler. Now, am I gonna have to go to the roof to shut that system off when we have a problem and it needs to restart? Or will there be a control down in the
There'll be
mechanical room
controls.
to shut that off?
They'll be controlled on them, yeah, you shouldn't have to remotely ask, you shouldn't have to go up there to do a whole shutdown. I wouldn't think, but I'll double check for you.
Yeah, that would not be good. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, it's every time you had to go to the roof to do that.
Will them air handlers that are on the roof, will those be enclosed? Because a lot of those will have filters in them and stuff like that.
No, they won't be enclosed. You'll have to go up there and change the filter out. They'll be, yeah.
No, I understand that, but like for weather.
They won't be enclosed, no. I mean,
They'll be designed to,
Only the X's right now.
To be outside.
yes, correct.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, so, okay.
Yeah,
Only the.
yeah, the filters aren't gonna be like out, that's what you're.
Yes, 'cause
Yeah.
my question is, what's our total on their other projects? Do we even need to talk about this one?
Well, we're not there yet, so.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, I haven't added them up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We're just discussing.
I know, but if we added these up,
I don't think
Did
we're
we
at
hit our goal,
$1.6 million.
do we need that?
Right now, only the absolute guesses that you said, so not including the maybes, you're at 973,001.
And of that, half of it, we're gonna get the kitchen equipment later.
Right.
Yeah, you have to net whatever you're, whatever much.
So we're really only, at this point, taking a true 500,000 out.
Yeah.
How much?
500,000 in a true yes. Net of deferred.
That doesn't include the tear down, because that's in the maybe, that's the big one in the maybe file.
Now, if when I go, thinking about weighing the two, I would prefer these, giving this and letting them be on the roof and changing the controls. I mean, that is something that I think would be comparable. If you understand what I'm trying to get at.
No, I don't.
He wants new controls.
Like if it was between this or the controls,
He would take new controls.
I would take the new controls over,
You would say, you're gonna give up the $84,000 if you can have control of the whole building.
yes.
Got it.
If that was down to picking one of the two.
This one, I think everybody's gonna have to think long and hard about over.
So with the controls, that control ties into, let's say, your fire alarm controls. How hard is that to do the 3 different types that you have in one building?
You'll have one fire alarm control. One
So, but
fire
it'll
control.
tie into all the other controls and shut dampers?
Yeah,
and
so
whatever.
the fire alarms actually has to be redone anyway, so that's being redone on this project. Cause now you'll be under one fire alarm system, and it will be all updated.
That's good. I was just worried that if we have it going to multiple things that are different systems or different components, that we might run into something.
Just from the experience I've had with the system at Lakeview, I'll tell you, it's been a complete crap show with that system down there. And the diagnostic and be able to figure out the problems with an online system of these controls, it's a lot easier with the control side. If I would have had to dealt with the system at Lakeview with this bad phones control system, we'd be in high water. That's just my
Is high water a good thing or a bad thing?
bad thing.
It's a bad thing?
Well, right now with the grass, it's probably would be a good thing, but
Something out there now.
So you're saying that the system at Lakeview is not very good?
yeah, like half the building currently right now doesn't have air conditioning. I've had three different companies, 3 different techs down there in this last week. Like on one compressor, we had a copper line had a leak, had a Freon leak. Got that fixed, pumped it back with Freon. He almost got it all the way pumped back in, and another spot on the copper just started expanding. So they've used 3 different sets of Freon filling it up. Then once they got that all done, the sensor for the low pressure sensor was bad. So now that's what we're waiting on now. Then I had to have data power for the control side. Like down at Lakeview, there's data power for the LG control side. But then that's the main control. But then there's the Woodman controls that we use to control it all. But that's 2 different companies. Neither one of them can tap into either one of the systems. So I'd have 2 different companies down. And just for the data powers to come down and look at it was an expensive charge. With CI3.
Oh yeah, they've got a lot of travel costs, yeah, the travel costs.
That was my big push to get rid of Woodman and go to CI3.
Okay.
With Woodman, we've had no support from them at all. The CI3, from the dealings I've had with them with Howard, they're there that day, if you need them.
So that's why you're really pushing for the controls to be upgraded in the rest of the high school building.
Yes. It's just from the problems we've had in the past.
That's good information.
It's not just like that chiller we're having problems with at the high school right now. I think it's getting wrapped up. It's been running good for the last 2 weeks. But if we would have had a problem like that with that system, with this old bagged phone control system, it would take forever to diagnose that.
Okay.
So, just a question, just being the new guy, with the Lakeview issues, was that ever something on the Lakeview project that was put in and then pulled out as far as controls?
No.
That was all put in.
Yeah, we got one person that's got history of that.
That, the whole Lakeview mechanical room was a disaster.
The way it was designed, where if one of them compressors go down, the only way to take it out is to knock out the wall. The only way to change it, there's so much piping in between in the open areas, it's more feasible to take out the wall.
Well, I didn't
than it
know
is to
that
replace
about
pipe.
the compressor, but I know that about the furnace. Are you talking, when you go in, I thought those were boiler units.
All those things that are racked up are all compressors.
Those are compressors, I thought they were boilers, okay.
The boiler's in the very back corner.
Never mind, okay.
turn around.
I know what you're talking about, I thought there was
It's a
something different.
disaster.
It is.
It is.
We really screwed up. I'll be first one to take responsibility for that. When we were reviewing everything, we didn't review the mechanical room.
Well, and that's why I asked, I just didn't know if this was something similar that might have, say,
It's-
hey, we're gonna use this control set and then do this. and-
Well, and it has matured in the last 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll go, like this whole last school year, didn't have very many problems with it at all. But with that system, I'm not sure what it is, it all happens at once. 5 different things will break at one time. And then it'll be good for 7, 8 months, and then it'll break again.
Even the technology that we're showing here now is not new.
Right.
You know, it's a couple years old, you know, it takes a while to develop that, so.
So this is one where everybody's got to think long and hard for big chunks of money.
Big chunk of money.
Both of these two.
But it's, everything on that page is something we're probably gonna do at some point. Gonna have to do.
The only thing would be the 84,300 one, because you'd just be doing a different product. So that's the only one that would be forever
Yep.
that way.
M2 as
Oh.
well. M2 is just
Yeah.
almost a spec change, a little bit different material.
Yeah.
But that one, you know, you get something that's just a little different than what we originally spec'd, and it's a little bit more cost effective.
Well, are all of these maybes, or did you guys identify any?
I
that
think
you
all
were
of these are
accepting?
maybes. Well, I think M2 is probably a yes. And M5 and M6 are kind of, you pick one or the other. And then M1 is,
Serious. I'll be there.
if you do, if you say yes to M1, then you're saying no to M3.
Same location.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, ma'am, there's no danger.
So I think it's a whole.
No to M3, you said, right?
Yeah,
If it's yes to M1, it's no to M3.
Oh.
If it's no to M1, it's yes to M3.
they're tied together.
Okay. So, thanks, we'll kind of, we're partway there.
Well, then we got 2 more guys to bring in there.
Yep. Um, There's really only a true take it out, not deferred of $500,000 right now.
Well, your food service, it just depends on if you end up wanting that as a hub.
Yeah,
You know,
I-
that's,
probably gonna end up happening later.
Yeah, so you're talking deferred cost and savings. There's some costs that are just deferred, not actually saved.
So as far as the kitchen equipment, we've been getting by without this kitchen equipment in the high school. But we've just been bringing it to the high school.
And, well, it's not a good factor, but that is why we have a full-time person now as a bus driver, because that person also is the food transporter during the day. That's not a factor to this, it's just an interesting tidbit.
Well,
We still have to have a place to bring the food in and kind of get it all ready to
We don't
go.
have to have all the equipment, right? To
right,
actually prepare.
but, I mean, I don't wanna belabor the point, but in my research, you would get better meals if you cooked it at the high school.
That's where I'm at.
Right. And you can't do that with what we're doing now and what we have been doing. But when the term that the gentleman I had a lot of respect for was oven to plate. Comes right out of the oven onto the kid's plate. It's not warmed up and left. I mean, that's where you get, that requires, you know, more kitchens. So, but I think we can move towards that.
More kitchens and more kitchen help and
No, it wouldn't really be any more help.
how are you gonna get by with the same?
That's all- Right now, that's on OPA, so.
Yeah, that's all them, but I mean, you know, you're gonna prepare the same amount of meals, okay? And so if one cook can prepare, say, you know, meals for 100 kids, two cooks can prepare meals for 200 kids. I mean, that's just kind of the way that works. But they've gotta have the equipment, and it's gotta be prepared or cooked where you serve it in order to get good quality. It's just like takeout. I mean, when COVID hit, we were just dying for some good Mexican restaurant, and you know what? You can pick up that stuff, and it's just not good when you get it home.
I tell you, and you know, that's a great analogy. I'm thinking nobody in this room knows what a Mermite can is, number one.
Yeah.
You?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I figured you might be the only person to know what a Mermite can is. It's not good. Yeah, it was cooked, but it's just not good. Okay, but I love La Fiesta. But if I order the exact same things on La Fiesta and I get the takeout, it is just not the same.
No, it's not the same. There's something about it,
Yes,
but
yeah, it really does change.
Something for something.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so now here's the question. Everybody's gotta go think long and hard about this. We got some work that we're gonna have to get back from Rochelle and her team. Do we want to do this on the 8th at our regular scheduled meeting, or do we want to have another meeting on the 15th? That is a regular meeting, therefore we can have, take action on these.
No, we've already scheduled, there's already a work session.
No, I'm sorry, we're already scheduled the 15th. Yeah, sorry, thank you.
Or 8, on the 8th.
Coming early on the 8th
Yeah.
to a work session.
Oh, that's right. Thank you for keeping my calendar straight.
So you have from 5 to 6:30 for work
So-
session.
and I am not available though.
That's okay.
Is that gonna be long enough for you to find out what we need to find out?
Well, I mean, I don't know if we'll get all the answers to you by Monday, but we'll certainly.
We'll probably just have to talk more in depth about them, so.
But we'll try, I know that Lance was gonna go on his end and find a few things, because most of it was, and the contractor's end just to make sure what was, verify a few things. And then I think I'd like to know, like, what, if we kept that dish room, that option for you guys.
So basically, we need to, on the 8th, is kind of come up with a list of what we need to get back.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's what we need to do on the 8th, is we'll just kind of rehash the stuff again in the work session, and then do we can we modify the agenda to take action on?
Really?
No. Or can we just add that to the 15th and we,
Well, we can still, I guess we can still put it on right now, because technically, we don't, I mean, we have time before we post the agenda. I mean, we can add it right now, is what I'm saying.
you guys want to talk about this on Monday and vote it on a Monday, or do you want to talk about it again on Monday and vote on it the 15th?
Yeah.
I guess we probably need to vote on the 15th is what I'm thinking. Because that'll give Mike and Bob more time to catch up. That's probably, we ought to probably just, everybody go back and really think about this and let's talk about these things again. We'll kind of look at some cost again.
Would your 15th meeting be kind of having a path forward in the VE items and then also potentially accepting the bid?
It's gonna have to be.
Right, that's what I was just wanted to make sure we had that on the,
Yeah.
that was, okay.
Yeah, because the 15th right now is special, is the public hearing for the bond. So we're gonna be here the 15th anyways. So I guess what I would propose for feedback, since we can't really take action, is we keep the work session on the 8th from 5 to 6:30, just to continue to talk about these. We'll get these two guys spun up. And then the agenda for the 15th would be, on top of the public hearing, would be a regular board meeting where we would do two things. One is vote on the value engineering, the things we're gonna ask for change orders on, and then accept the bid. Does that make sense? Okay.
I will not be, I'm out of the office on the 15th, but I will consume, I can zoom in.
That's good, yeah.
Call in or whatever.
Yeah, you can call in, whatever you can.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anybody got anything else? Any great ideas?
I was just hoping I would've won Mega Millions, and I just did it for myself.
I had the same thought.
And we would have named it after you, right? Big Red would be out, and you were in.
Something like that. Yeah. All right, that's great. Yeah. Okay, I guess I don't have anything else unless anyone else has anything. Let's go around. Anything you want to add? We're not gonna do takeaways today, so don't worry about it. You think? No. Brad, you got anything you want to throw in there? Cameron? Okay.
This is gonna be the most important part of this whole project.
Okay. Lisa? You just want us to get it to a number you can live with?
Yes, please.
Mark?
Mm-hmm, that, a good number.
Make Lisa happy.
It sounds like we're gonna have to go through the bond. I don't think there's any way around it.
I think we'd be foolish not to.
Okay.
No sense going in underfunded or strapped to the hill. That's not.
Okay, so I guess so part of what we need to do on Monday is just really do a good financial cash projection too, because I think the 2031 and 2038, everybody has to understand that number. And I wonder if Matt could do change his, we'll do between now and then for, at 400,000 for.
You know, I need to do that.
Okay.
I'm sure you know.
All right. All right, with that, I don't have anything else. Appreciate everybody's time. Thank you for driving down. Are you in Des Moines, by the way?
I am, yeah.
Okay, thanks for driving down. With that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Motion second adjourned. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Have a good weekend.